Marvel. The arrival of the young hacker, the attack on Wanda and Gwen. Chapter 21. The impact from the fanning tail surged through the water and slammed into the roads on both sides. The floor, unable to bear the strain, trembled in agony, the ceiling shook violently, showering dust. Calling it earth-shaking would not be an exaggeration. Gwen managed to stay basically calm, while the woman was so terrified her heart quivered, she shut her eyes and showcased her soprano lungs. Her scream was drowned out by the sound of the building collapsing. Yes, Gwen clearly heard the building collapse. Big Steel Teeth was only swimming, yet the shockwave was about to tear the place apart. Underwater, Professor Lizard lost control of his body, tossed about by the pressure like a wave crashing over him. Seeing Big Steel Teeth rushing in, Professor Lizard's scalp went numb from fright. He had thought Jomo's new form was a fellow mutant like himself. Now he realized how terribly wrong he'd been. The gap between them was wider than that between man and dog. Instinctively, the thought flashed through Professor Lizard's mind, he could kill me without effort. At the point of despair, he spotted an abandoned motorcycle rising beside him. Driven by survival, he mustered every ounce of strength and hurled the motorcycle at Big Steel Teeth, hoping to slow or break the charge and seize a slim chance at life. He watched the motorcycle fly right into Big Steel Teeth's face. Delight sparked, then Big Steel Teeth simply parted his lips and snapped the bike in half. His pupils shrank to pinpricks in shock, his heart clenched. Impossible. Besides that insane underwater speed, he had bite force like this. With just a casual bite he'd severed a motorcycle, what would full power look like? Professor Lizard dared not imagine. Feeling like prey marked by a shark, he wished he were safe inside a quiet submarine. Before Big Steel Teeth even reached him, the trailing shockwave flung Professor Lizard clean away. Bang! He shot out of the water and smashed into the wall where the instruments had been. A crisp crack of bone accompanied the impact. Blood trickled from his mouth, his gaze vacant. Professor Lizard finally passed out, head lolling, life or death unknown. Above, Gwen hung by a web strand with one hand, the other arm around the mother and child, her lips trembling in horror. Had a battle wrecked the place she wouldn't have blinked. But this destruction came from nothing more than someone swimming. It was simply unheard of. And she had never seen a mutant one-shot this way before. For no reason she wondered, could Jomo really be an alien from the land of light in Nebula M78? Big Steel Teeth surfaced, stepped ashore, and walked toward Professor Lizard. Afraid he meant to kill, Gwen dropped down, set the pair aside, and hurried to intervene. She laid a hand on his shoulder. I don't recommend killing him outright. As Spider-Man, Gwen's cardinal rule is no killing. She is only Spider-Man, she claims no right to be executioner. Crooks should be caught and left to due process. I wasn't planning to kill him. Eyes on the lizard man, Big Steel Teeth grinned coldly. I'll box him up and courier him to India. A nice surprise will be waiting. Gwen froze, Professor Lizard quietly clenched his butt. You might as well just kill me. Yes, he was playing dead, still hoping for a chance to escape and continue his evolutionary work. Jomo had no opinion on lizard men. If possible he wouldn't waste a second on such small fry. Hunt him down. The professor couldn't even catch Jomo's real identity, let alone the man himself. All this was just venting anger. Jomo unloaded a torrent of the filthiest curses on Professor Lizard. Gwen, listening, was baffled, she couldn't see why a simple threat had enraged him so. Rumble. The ceiling finally gave way, crashing down in a cloud of dust and coughs. When the dust settled, their exit was completely blocked by rubble. We'd better figure a way out. Gwen walked to Professor Lizard and began cocooning him in webbing, round after round, tight and solid. Even with great strength, he now had no leverage to break free. As she worked she glanced over. Can you call your red friend to punch us a path? Gwen was strong, but her destructive power didn't match four-armed Overlord. The air was turning thin and foul, a quick exit called for brute force. Big Steel Teeth clicked his tongue, turned to the wall. Professor Lizard opened an eye slit, his chance. What was his strongest ability? Regeneration. Amphibious lungs. No, his tail, the very thing Spider-Man had warned about. The tail wasn't tied, it could lash out at full power, and the fish man's back was turned. Knock him out, then run. He prepared to strike. The tail whipped, A dull boom burst forth. Boom. The tail flicked the wall like a dragonfly skimming water and snapped back. In an instant wall and ceiling collapsed. The blast hurled dust nearly 100 meters and left the air crystal clear. Sunlight poured in, everything bright. Gwen froze mid-web, staring up at the sun. They now stood in an impact crater, 10 meters above the former sewer. One tail flick had literally demolished everything. Like a robot she slowly turned, gaping at big steel teeth for 2 speechless seconds. Arms folded, he said coolly, with teeth that can tear steel, who needs 4-armed overlord? He picked up a rebar, bit off the bent end, and used the rest as a toothpick. Having delivered the perfect flex, he sneaked a glance, yet received no adoration. Gwen went back to binding the lizard. The woman, as usual, recoiled in terror. Only the little boy in her arms turned his sleepy eyes toward him. Oh well, Jomo clicked his tongue in mild regret. No fans gained, but it fit his low-key, careful style. Gwen finished and walked to the child. Jomo looked at the trussed-up, dumpling-like Professor Lizard. The professor kept his eyes shut, resigned to capture. All he felt now was relief, and dread. Good thing he hadn't attacked, or that tail would have smashed his face. Just thinking of it sent chills down his spine. The strength before him could only be called absurd. An attack of that caliber. He couldn't pull it off in 100 tries. Silently, big steel teeth whipped the professor's head again. Professor Lizard blacked out instantly. Big steel teeth nodded in satisfaction. Even if he wakes up he'll be drooling. He had aimed for the brain's neural centers, internal injuries only. The lizard's regeneration was no match for Wolverine's or Deadpool's, neurons wouldn't rewire. If he ever woke, he'd be a vegetable at best, an idiot at worst. No death, no future problem, Jomo figured every superhero ought to learn from him. Just then he spotted a red figure streak across the distant sky. Leaping from the crater he could faintly see it chasing a bouncing green speck. Wanda's brainwashed Hulk. Recalling the plot, Jomo thought of Ultron. Ultron's memory surfaced, and with it the image of the shapeshifter. Right, time to pay Sokovia a visit. Gwen successfully rescued the whole family, supporting the woman's shoulder and comforting her. The police are coming soon, it's all right now. The woman sniffed and nodded, not understanding why her husband had become like this. The little boy in her arms wiped his mother's tears with his small hand and, choking, said, "Don't cry, Mom, Dad will be here soon." Hearing that, the woman looked at the lizard professor's cocoon hanging on the tree and began to cry even harder. Child, it's better not to let your dad come back, sob sob sob. Gwen also presented the lizard professor's device as evidence. No matter what, Martha, life must go on, your child still needs you. Hearing Gwen's comfort, the woman nodded through her tears. In fact, aside from pulling herself together, she had nothing else she could do. But how did Spider-Man know his real name? Martha was about to ask when she felt Jomo's surprised gaze. Your real name is also Martha. Suddenly, Martha was frightened by the sight of big steel teeth and stopped crying, blankly nodding. The little boy also felt the urge to protect his mother, puffed out his chest without fear and said in a baby voice, "Yeah, what's up?" Jomo switched to Fireman, "I'll join the Martha universe too." When the police arrived, Jomo and Gwen had already gone far away. Later, the Daily Bugle building. Boss Jameson flipped through photos sent from the front lines, overjoyed. Now the Daily Bugle has another angle to smear Spider-Man. With such massive destruction, setting aside the villains, does Spider-Man have not a single ounce of responsibility? Turning to the photo of the police putting a coat on the little boy, Jameson's heart shattered instantly. Oh, poor little thing. Seeing the next photo, Jameson fell into thought. Is something off here? In the picture, the flame bat lamp left by Fireman hovered in the sky, then he changed into civilian clothes and walked back. Gwen appeared unfazed, but her gaze kept drifting toward Jomo. Seeing Jomo's eyes also seemed to be searching for something made Gwen even more puzzled. Unable to hold back, Gwen nudged Jomo's shoulder and started small talk. Hey, why does his single chase make you so angry? Jomo, who was wholeheartedly hunting for Hulk and Stark, replied offhand, because a chase damages my manliness, a real man should start a 1v1 battle. Gwen wrinkled her nose, doubting his words. Squinting, she smiled slyly. Is someone also chasing you? Jomo glanced at her without answering and kept searching for Hulk and Stark. The place was crowded, birds chirping, flowers blooming, with no trace of any battle. It made Jomo even more confused. According to the original plot, weren't they supposed to fight here? Did the storyline go wrong? Treating Jomo's silence as consent, Gwen got serious. It's okay, Jomo, tell me who it is and I'll have the police prepare a comfortable cell for him. After speaking, Gwen patted her own chest with a sense of loyalty. Jomo turned his head and scanned Gwen's body from top to bottom, his disdain unmistakably evident. He opened his mouth, ready to tease, then thought better and, still searching for Hulk and Stark, whispered, forget it. Unlike me, if you meet him you won't even get a chance to run. Jomo's indirect admission made Gwen's smile freeze instantly. Thoughts and a chill rose from deep within her heart. There was no doubt that Jomo was the strongest mutant he knew. But what could possibly hunt such a powerful Jomo? A cold draft swept behind Gwen, making her shiver. After another round of searching found nothing, Jomo gave up. Hulk and Stark could not activate any alien heroes. Jomo's search for them was purely out of curiosity. Jomo stopped. I'm not going back, I'm going out for a while. Unease rose, and Gwen asked worriedly, where are you going? With hands in his pockets, Jomo turned and walked in the opposite direction, waving to the crowd, I'll be back in a few days. Gwen squinted at the tall building nearby. Jomo walked dejectedly, only one question in his mind. How should I get to Sokovia? Since yesterday, through hard work, I've earned enough money to buy a ticket. But the problem is, I have no legal status. His eyes twitched. Jomo thought of Fireman and Big Steel Teeth. Sokovia is in Europe, separated by the Atlantic Ocean. I can't possibly fly or swim there, can I? At that moment, a wave of screams rose from the crowd ahead. Looking toward the sound, not far away Stark was battling Hulk. Or more accurately, Hulk was beating Stark single-handedly. Seems the plot isn't wrong, I just went the opposite way. Jomo found the unfinished building and sighed regretfully. You'll be gone soon. Let me sing you a song to comfort you. The newly bought building just got smashed. The anti-Hulk armor wasn't ready, so Stark was defenseless. The only good thing is that most of the surrounding people have already run away. Bang! Stark hit the ground hard, struggling to get up, when he saw Jomo standing on the roadside as if nothing had happened. Just as he was about to shout a warning, Jomo sprinted, swinging his arms, and vanished into a side alley. You're blocking the road. Getting up, Stark chuckled, what a humorous fellow. Then, facing Hulk's fist flying from midair, Stark shot straight up to dodge. The ground was ripped open by Hulk's punch, sending dust and fog swirling. Seizing the moment, the airborne Stark quickly equipped the anti-Hulk armor. Hulk, sensing this, tried to chase but turned his head toward the alley. As the smoke cleared, a tall silhouette appeared, two red fists slammed into Hulk's face. The brute force sent Hulk flying backward, crashing through two buildings before stopping. Stark, without time to react, piloted the anti-Hulk armor and rushed in for a finishing blow. Great attack, of course I have an even better one. Sleep, sleep, sleep. A few minutes later the anti-Hulk armor was ripped apart, and Stark fled in panic. Is that guy who just threw punches still around? Hulk baby still needs a lullaby service. Jomo had vanished without a trace. Following behind, perched on the building's roof, Spider-Man Gwen watched the flame bat lamp-lit fireman disappear into the clouds, worry flooding her eyes. Knowing such a powerful Jomo was evading a hunt, Gwen couldn't help overthinking his sudden departure. Where is he going? Will he be in danger? She stood there blankly for a long while, then slapped her forehead. Strange, why am I so worried about him? On the other side, a step ahead of the Avengers, Jomo had already arrived in Sokovia. Upon arriving in Sokovia, Ultron awakened the shapeshifter's silhouette. Flash Star's silhouette was awakened by Quicksilver. Avengers Tower. After resolving the Hulk incident and fully understanding what had happened, the Ultron crisis loomed over everyone like a dark cloud. War Machine found it absurd and pointed an accusing finger at Stark. So, Tony, you created Ultron. Anxious, Stark walked toward the bar. Hearing the remark, he turned his head, pointed back, and growled, if you're asking who most wants to protect Earth and is willing to pour everything into it. Then yes, it was me. The words reminded the heroes of the alien army Loki had once brought to invade, and their inner shadows resurfaced. One by one they fell silent. Earth truly needed stronger defenses. Captain America lowered his folded arms and broke the silence with a gentle voice. I think no matter what, we need to defeat Ultron first, don't we? The suggestion earned everyone's silent agreement. Fine. Realizing the point, War Machine sighed helplessly and asked the crucial question, so what should we do? They needed to draft a plan of action, and the weight of that question pressed on everyone's heart. Setting aside the self-aware robot Ultron with his endless copies, just the mutant siblings alone were enough to give them headaches. The Hulk's rampage had been caused by Scarlet Witch's brainwashing. Quicksilver's speed was so fast they couldn't even see him. Dealing with them wasn't easy, and there was still Ultron to worry about. With his back to the others, Stark poured a glass of hard liquor. After a big gulp he turned, his resolute gaze first landing on Banner, then sweeping across everyone. Actually, I have an idea. War Machine had a bad premonition. What? We build another robot. War Machine raised an eyebrow. Just like Ultron. The new robot will be forged from the vibranium we captured, originally Ultron's, by the way. Combined with the Mind Stone and the remnants of Jarvis's benevolent personality, guys, you can't imagine how powerful this protector will be. After hearing this, War Machine fell silent, replaying everything in his mind. Stark created the Ultron robot, which turned evil, escaped, and vowed to wipe out humanity. So Stark decided to build an even stronger robot. Ending his silence, War Machine asked very seriously, Stark, honestly, which side are you on? Sokovia. Fireman was patrolling high above Sokovia, searching for that small town, when a red orb of magic came flying toward him. Within the red light were Scarlet Witch Wanda and Quicksilver Pietro. Blocking Jomo's path, the siblings' eyes showed both vigilance and hostility. Jomo wasn't surprised. If he remembered correctly, the two were still allied with Ultron, until Wanda discovered Ultron planned to wipe out all humans. Automatically ignoring the bullet speed Quicksilver Pietro, Jomo looked Wanda up and down and couldn't help but sigh. Meat, eggs, and dairy, girls really should eat more of them. Facing the suddenly appearing fireman, Wanda's voice carried clear hostility. What are you here for? What am I here for? Jomo put his hands on his hips and shouted, I'm here to assist Lord Ultron. And you dare block me? Shame. Before a shapeshifter it isn't worth mentioning. Wanda's aura surged as she entered combat stance, then I won't let you pass alive. Though unsure how she'd do it, Jomo saw Pietro tuck his chin and stare at him, ready to fight to the death. Tisk. Looks like the siblings were ready to go all out against him. Judging by their attitude, had they already ended their alliance with Ultron? If a fight broke out here, would it scare Ultron into relocating his plan? After all, Jomo didn't know the exact date. With so many copies, Ultron could quickly move the Ascension device elsewhere. Ending his brief musing, Fireman kept a serious face, but his voice softened. Hold on. What did you just say? Wanda tried her best at a menacing smile. I said, I won't let you pass alive. No, the line before that. What are you here for? Without hesitation, Jomo answered, fishing. Mountains and lakes, great scenery. I'm taking a nice vacation here. As he spoke, under the siblings' stunned gaze, Fireman descended to the ground as if nothing had happened. Living in the mountains feels awesome. Hearing this, the two looked at each other, both seeing bewilderment and confusion in the other's eyes. Their gazes seemed to ask, what do we do now? Though they'd talked big, in truth the still juvenile siblings had no counter-plan at all. Locked up by Hydra all year with no social skills, facing Jomo was like an innocent grade schooler confronting a shameless rogue. After exchanging glances, they decided to follow Jomo for now. Wanda nervously controlled the magic sphere shielding them, carefully keeping distance from Fireman. A sudden acceleration or deceleration by the descending Fireman made their hearts jump. They'd look at each other in fright. So Jomo kept speeding up, then slowing down again and again. Amid the screams of fleeing crowds, when the siblings landed, their small faces were pale and they panted heavily. Back on solid ground, Quicksilver felt emboldened. Stepping forward, he demanded, you're not here to fish at all, are you? Fireman turned around, his appearance had scared off the nearby residents and made Quicksilver's heart race. Of course not. He raised a finger, a basketball-sized fireball quickly forming at its tip. Grinning, Fireman said, "I'm here to blast fish. Take this." The fireball shot toward Quicksilver, who predictably dodged it fast. But worried about Wanda, he didn't dare run far, he only blinked a few meters away, so the blast of the fireball that hit the ground still washed heat across his face, leaving a faint burning sensation. Battle experience plus 0.5%. A faint gleam appeared under the soles of the flash star silhouette in Jomo's mind. Jomo sighed wearily. Looks like this is going to take a lot of hits. Mistaking it for praise of his speed, Quicksilver smirked proudly. Give up. No matter how many attacks, you'll never hit me. Knowing Quicksilver's fate, Fireman couldn't even be bothered to retort. Another fireball gathered at his fingertip. But the fireball didn't launch. Fireman looked up at the sky. Dozens of silhouettes slowly appeared. Ultron had noticed something wrong after all and arrived with his copies. Ultron landed, and the three groups found themselves aligned in a straight line. The situation suddenly changed. All sides reassessed the battlefield. Instant silence fell, the atmosphere turning oddly awkward. The siblings caught in the middle looked left and right. Without doubt, this Ultron who wanted to wipe out humanity was evil. This Fireman had claimed to be Ultron's underling the moment he showed up, and immediately attacked them. 10-1 he was Ultron's accomplice too. Judging this in an instant, the two struck out left and right, truly adopting a fight to the death stance. They hated Stark, but they could never allow humanity to be wiped out. Sokovia was still their hometown. In Ultron's eyes, the fireball-wielding Fireman was judged to be a helper the escaped siblings had brought back, an enemy to be eliminated alongside them. Jomo's response. Jomo says screw your sides. Neither Shapeshifter nor Flash Star is getting away. Come at me together. And so something bizarre happened. Each of the three groups decided to single-handedly wipe out the other two. Wanda blocked Ultron, and Quicksilver charged at Jomo. Fireman's 10 fingers turned into machine guns, spraying bullets at Quicksilver at full speed. With Quicksilver moving at high speed, every shot naturally missed. When the hail of bullets stopped, Quicksilver also braked in a panic, grinning smugly. Did you forget what I just said? No matter how many times you attack, you'll never hit me even once. His hands lowered to reveal his head. Somehow Fireman had already switched to Ice Fireman. Startled by the change, Quicksilver's heart sank. He'd never seen it coming. Yet in an instant Quicksilver regained his confidence. Whether ice or fire, it made no difference, they couldn't touch him. Ice Fireman raised an eyebrow meaningfully. What if I never intended to hit you in the first place? A chill crept up from his feet. Quicksilver glanced down and cursed. This was bad. Everywhere he looked, the ground was coated in thick ice. Only then did he realize his own feet were standing on it. Ice Fireman switched back to Fireman and resumed the flaming machine gun barrage against Quicksilver. Along the way he didn't forget to gun down several Ultron drones rushing him. Quicksilver kicked into high speed again, but the confidence on his face had been replaced by panic. The flaming machine gun fire left burning sparks on the ground. The heat melted the surrounding frost, turning the ice surface slick. Add the thin layer of water and Quicksilver nearly slipped several times. Who would have thought Quicksilver could almost fall while running on ice? Hydra certainly hadn't trained him for this. Visible to the naked eye, Quicksilver slowed, stopping every so often to skirt the slippery patches and change direction. And whenever he paused, that was when Fireman's machine gun fired in earnest. Cycle after cycle, watching Quicksilver flee in disgrace, Jomo shook his head with a "this kid's hopeless" look. Didn't the guy understand that battles rely on brains, not just mutant powers? With zero pressure, Fireman freed one hand and shot at the Ultron drones. As the Ultron copies exploded, the shapeshifter began slowly unlocking. Combat experience plus 1%. Combat experience plus 0.5%. Combat experience plus 1.1%. Quicksilver darted about like a startled bunny. Every time he stopped he'd glance fearfully at Wanda. Frankly, if he hardened his heart and fled at full speed, he could probably get away. But he couldn't. His little sister was right here. If he ran, the fight would become 2 against 1 and Wanda would be in danger. Because he knew that, Jomo could stand still and spray bullets in peace. Quicksilver's mind was filled with panic and unease. Extreme unease. He weirdly realized that despite Fireman's ferocious output, the guy didn't seem intent on killing him. Under the covering fire, a flaming bullet grazed Quicksilver's cheek, leaving a scorching burn. He already had several such wounds. The leg injuries were one reason his speed kept dropping, the burning pain unbearable. If he wrote that off as Fireman being a master of aiming to miss, Quicksilver could swear. During several of his stops, Fireman could have put one straight through his forehead before he could react. But he hadn't. It baffled Quicksilver completely. Fireman was clearly under Ultron. Per Ultron's order he should kill him, so why not? Furrowing his brow, Quicksilver pondered the question and realized how naive he'd been. He'd thought he'd show off, flaunt his powers and mock his opponent. Yet the one being chased and beaten, fleeing in disgrace, was himself. Keep in mind Fireman hadn't even used the rapid flight ability he'd shown earlier, he simply stood still and fired. If he went all out to kill, Quicksilver only imagined it and a chill shot through him. The ice surface became a swamp of fear climbing up from his soles, a rare look of terror on his face. The first time was a Stark-made bomb falling on his home, the second was being captured by Hydra, the third is right now. Jomo's reason was simple, Flash Star. Against other mutants, say Dr. Octopus, Human Torch, even Professor Lizard. He could rack up combat experience in a straight-up 1v1 man fight. But not with Quicksilver. Jomo was genuinely afraid of accidentally killing him. The guy was a walking glass bottle. Normal bullets could kill him, fire bullets had to be handled with extra care. Jomo figured if he died, who would give him the missing Flash Star piece? So he could only scrape experience by near misses and the residual force of attacks. The efficiency was far lower than a real man-to-man brawl, but it was safe. With Ultron, of course, he wasn't so cautious, one pull of the trigger per target. Blasting Ultron copies built combat experience while also easing Wanda's pressure. Still lacking a dead brother, she wasn't yet limitless in power. Over the Atlantic, a private jet bearing the Stark Industries logo flew supersonically. Outside the windows, Vision, Thor, War Machine and Stark flew alongside. Glancing into the cabin at Captain America, Black Widow and Hawkeye Banner, War Machine badly wanted to crack, who'd have thought these superheroes still need a plane to go on a mission, so not cool tilde. But he swallowed it. In the comm system Friday's voice sounded. Distance to Sokovia, 1030 kilometers, ETA 30 minutes. The reminder made everyone tense. Ultron's goal was clear. In Sokovia the idiot robot planned to lift a whole town into the sky and wipe out humanity like the dinosaurs. Once again, they were going to save the entire human race. Inside the cabin Captain America couldn't help pinching his brow. Last time it was aliens, this time it's robots. I should have taken a nap before coming. Stark raised an eyebrow and snorted. Totally get it, old folks do need more rest. Filtering the jab, Captain America looked at Friday on the screen and murmured, the world's changing too fast. The next second the display changed abruptly. Friday's warning rang out. Sir, satellite imagery shows someone reached Sokovia before us. The feed synced to Stark's helmet and his heart clenched. Ultron bots lay wrecked everywhere, two figures snapped Stark's nerves taut. Ultron's accomplices, Scarlet Witch Wanda and Quicksilver Pietro. Stark narrowed his eyes and realized Wanda was standing still, watching Pietro fight, a fireman. Stark asked in puzzlement, anybody know who this blazing guy is? The moment he asked, Stark knew the question was pointless. If you're fighting Ultron's accomplices, who else could you be? A hero, obviously. On site. Having gradually shot every Ultron copy, the shapeshifter's bar was still far from full. But after several crits, Flash Star was almost ready. Fireman raised the rate of fire and grinned wickedly at Quicksilver, time's almost up tilde. It's about time. Saying that, Jomo offered a very good suggestion. How about this, Pietro, you stand still and let me punch you a few times to finish it. The Flash Star progress bar is less than 2% away from completion. A few punches or dozens of punches to Quicksilver will finish it. The suggestion can be called a win-win. He will unlock Flash Star without being resented by Wanda for seriously injuring or accidentally killing Quicksilver. Jomo wins twice, in short, a win-win. At this time, Wanda was staring at Jomo with an extremely complicated expression, with no intention of making a move. She didn't understand. Jomo not only hit them but also Ultron. Isn't he Ultron's subordinate? What is he doing? Hey! After hearing this, Quicksilver's face turned livid. He gritted his teeth and snorted coldly. The fighting spirit in his eyes not only did not dissipate but became even more vigorous. Jomo shrugged, not surprised. Okay then. With only the last 2% left, Jomo could gradually let go. The flame machine gun rotated again, and fire bullets poured out. There's still time to chat between exchanges here. On the other side, the Avengers in the air couldn't help but become nervous. Hawkeye's palms were sweating, and he clenched his fists back and forth to relieve the tension. Not long ago, he had fought Quicksilver. In that brief confrontation, he didn't touch Quicksilver at all. The feeling of powerlessness in the face of Quicksilver revived in his heart, and Hawkeye subconsciously substituted himself for Fireman, his tense face sinking down. Hawkeye said in a deep voice, reminding, believe me, this Fireman can't deal with the silver-haired kid. After hearing this, Stark curled his lip, thinking, did he even need to say that? The silver-haired kid runs so fast, who can deal with him? But compared to Quicksilver, Stark focused more on Wanda, who was the main reason Stark was so nervous. This red-haired girl has the ability to control people's minds. Hulk's rampage was caused by her. Stark believed that if he faced her later, the Avengers might fall into civil war directly without Ultron's intervention. Thinking of this, Stark's expression was so solemn that it seemed like water could drip from it. Ending his contemplation, Stark turned to look at Vision beside him, a glimmer of hope lighting up in his eyes. The greatest characteristic of the Avengers is their tenacity. When faced with powerful opponents, they will fight to the end. Now, Ultron has received the help of this pair of siblings, and they also have Vision's assistance. The hope of saving humanity still exists. Stark felt nervous and expectant about Vision, his another creation. Being able to lift Thor's warhammer has already shown that Vision has the qualifications of a benevolent ruler, and is someone who can fight alongside them. So, what can he do? Stark expected Vision to bring him surprises. In the picture transmitted by the satellite, another round of confrontation between Fireman and Quicksilver unfolded. Fireman was still standing in place as before, firing bullets from the flame machine gun. The Avengers did not see Quicksilver's previous embarrassment, but they completely saw Quicksilver's swiftness at this moment. The group watched with accelerated heartbeats, falling into silence. Quicksilver's speed in the picture was so fast that it was completely impossible to capture with the naked eye. He was like the wind, suddenly coming and suddenly disappearing. How should they deal with such a speed monster in half an hour? After stopping several times and flashing several times, the confidence on Quicksilver's face gradually recovered. A fish that re-enters the sea will not be caught by you again, buddy. Leaving these words with confidence and even provocation, Quicksilver disappeared again. Jomo glanced at the ice surface on the ground that had been completely shattered and melted by him, and wisely put away the Gatling gun, clicking his tongue. A smooth ice surface can indeed affect Quicksilver's speed to a certain extent. However, it is obvious that with the long-term sweep of fire bullets, the ice surface has been completely destroyed, and even many residual water stains have been evaporated. Quicksilver's feet re-entered the ground, and even with the influence of injuries, his speed returned to 70 or 80% of its original state. With the speed back, the confidence also returned. With a swish sound, Quicksilver appeared out of thin air behind Fireman. Quicksilver smiled evilly. Buddy, aren't you going to continue using your freezing ability? That might be your only hope. Fireman didn't move, and it seemed that he might not even have sensed Quicksilver flashing behind him. But after saying that, Quicksilver still didn't dare to have any intention of attacking and disappeared instantly. Quicksilver still has basic brains. He had previously discovered that Fireman had not used his full strength. Now that he has finally recovered his speed, he is naturally much more cautious, focusing all his attention on defending against possible ground freezing, and he doesn't dare to attack rashly at all. All of this fell into Wanda's eyes, which made her feel tired for her brother, covering her forehead and unable to look directly. Pietro clearly discovered that he is not Fireman's opponent, Why does he still have to say these harsh words? What are rebellious boys thinking about? Wanda sighed heavily, puzzled, and at the same time, she was glad that Fireman had no intention of really hurting them. Otherwise, Pietro, this real, spiritual lad, would have been taught a good lesson just now, and there would be no chance for trash talk at all. And through lip reading, Friday sent the content of the conversation back, and the group frowned at the same time. Looking at Fireman's figure, they said the same word in unison: ice. Old man Captain America couldn't understand even more. Did Friday make a mistake? A mutant who controls fire can also release ice. Stark's voice interrupted. I think the main point of the problem is not here. Changing the subject, Stark asked with a smile, Friday, has the plane's speed reached its limit? Friday's soft voice sounded in the cabin. No, sir, but long-term flight at the limit will further damage the engine's lifespan. Inside the helmet, the light in Stark's eyes lit up, and the corners of his mouth rose. After a few seconds of silence, Friday responded, Understood, sir, the plane's speed has been increased to the limit, and 4 brand new engines have been pre-ordered. Stark finally spoke, seriously correcting, No, that's too wasteful. It's better to just buy a new one, it saves time. The communication system was completely synchronized. After fully hearing the conversation between Stark and Friday, the group fell silent again. Well, it turns out that what Stark said was a waste of time, not money as they thought. Captain America, with his arms crossed, turned his head and glanced at the designer's sofa, silently moving away and standing on the cheaper open space. Taking a deep breath, Captain America said, Tony is right. The current focus is not on the fire mutant, but on Wanda and Pietro. Saying that, Captain America glanced at everyone one by one. After landing, how should we deal with them? Indeed, it is completely wrong to be entangled in whether the fireman has the ability to release ice now. The situation brought back by the satellite has already explained everything. If Fireman is really that powerful, then it wouldn't be Pietro running around there. Captain America has even thought of the worst situation. When they arrive, Fireman will have already sacrificed himself. The group was silent. Running so fast, plus there is also a Scarlet Witch, they can't think of a good way at the moment. At this time, Vision's voice came, You can leave it to me. Captain America turned his head to look out the window, Can you keep up with his speed? Vision, who was flying, didn't turn his head, stroking the gem on his forehead, and said to himself softly, I can feel the siblings. Perhaps I can persuade them. As for speed, Vision then turned his head. Their abilities come from the Mind Stone. Steve, please believe me, no one can keep up with Pietro's speed. At this moment, Jomo transformed into Flash Star, rushed towards Quicksilver Pietro, who was moving at almost teleporting speed, and gave him a punch. At this moment, the world was silent. Flash Star, unlocked successfully. Stark first saw the fireman leave a ball of flame on the spot before disappearing, leaving only the Scarlet Witch Wanda on the huge scene. Immediately nearby, Flash Star and Quicksilver appeared out of nowhere at the same time. Flash Star kept a punching stance, while Quicksilver panicked, opened his mouth wide, and staggered to the ground. It's easy to tell that Flash Star's punch hit Quicksilver, forcibly breaking his speed. At once, Stark's heart trembled sharply, his eyes widened and his pupils quivered slightly. Rapidly switching between the fireman's original position and Flash Star, he finally fixed his gaze on the Flash Star who looked just like a dinosaur person. Not only Stark, the Avengers heroes exchanged glances, each seeing astonishment in the other's eyes and hearing the same inner voice. Who the heck is this? Wanda, equally stunned, also stared in disbelief. Just now the fireman and ice fireman used only a little of their abilities, yet she felt an immense pressure, as if a single person could crush the sibling duo and Ultron. The only one who could spar with him was Pietro's rapid movement ability. And that was only because the fireman was heavily holding back. But now another dinosaur person with the same rapid movement ability appears. Even faster than Pietro. Staring blankly at Flash Star, Wanda's mind subconsciously conjured the image of a mutant being tormented in a laboratory. Her breathing halted, her heart hammered as if sensing danger, sending out a frantic SOS signal. Wanda's hair stood on end from fear. This guy, no. This monster. Where on earth did it come from? Recalling Jomo's claim that he was Ultron's subordinate, Wanda's hair erupted in terror. His power alone could wipe out humanity. Startled into tears by that thought and stepping back instinctively, Wanda then remembered Jomo hadn't truly harmed the sibling duo, which dispelled the fear and calmed her emotions. Quicksilver, lying on the ground, turned over, looked up at Flash Star, his pupils trembling and scalp tingling. Others can't see Flash Star's speed, but he might. Quicksilver clearly sensed that the face of Flash Star, which suddenly appeared before him, would cast an indelible psychological shadow over his whole life. What the hell is this ability, running faster than himself? Quicksilver nervously swallowed a mouthful of saliva. In the current situation, he has no strength left to fight back. Whatever the opponent wants to do, he'll just have to endure. Flash Star stared coldly down at Quicksilver, and a killing aura silently spread. The murderous atmosphere seemed to solidify, making it hard for Quicksilver to breathe as his heartbeat threatened to burst from his chest. Since his parents died, the concept of death resurfaced in Quicksilver's mind. Is he going to kill himself? With a caw sound, Flash Star snapped a claw. Quicksilver's heart stopped. Is it coming? Flash Star spoke. The voice was indeed as cold and indifferent as expected. 1000-7, what does that equal? Huh. Seizing the chance, Wanda hurried forward to intervene, trying to ease the tension, on the other side. The heroes quickly recovered from their shock, smiles gradually appearing on their faces. They thought that this mysterious mutant was indeed powerful, but he was on their side. Don't forget, the ones he struck were Ultron's mutant siblings. Even if they fear or dread him, that can wait until Ultron is completely dealt with and humanity is saved. Captain America placed his hands on his hips, gazing admiringly at Flash Star on the screen, exhaling a long breath of stale air. Undoubtedly, his assistance is of great significance. He is an ally in our operation. Jomo easily handled the most troublesome Quicksilver without the expected sacrifice, and Captain America felt he deserved any praise. Stark looked at the data analyzed inside the helmet, his eye muscles twitching. I want to say, this little dinosaur just completed 16 direction changes within 1 second. Upon hearing that, the hero's smiles froze instantly. Within a second, 16 direction changes while moving at high speed. The next second, Vision's calm voice suddenly rang out, pulling the hero's attention back. I must remind you, the Scarlet Witch is the most dangerous. The heroes regained their composure and slowly withdrew their smiles. Inside the helmet, Stark's expression remained solemn, which explained why he hadn't smiled earlier. He never forgot that the Scarlet Witch possesses the ability to manipulate minds. The stronger the mysterious mutant, the more likely a powerful mutant will soon join Ultron's ranks. When Flash Star's question was issued, Quicksilver made the choice Wanda most didn't want him to make, shouting and going berserk. Ah! You insult me! He let out a howl to the heavens, and the enraged Quicksilver vanished on the spot. That speed was a clear breakthrough from before, noticeably faster. As the target of his attack, Flash Star's mask vanished as well, then, chased Quicksilver to strike. I can't let you go without a lesson, this endless fight. Is a beating all it takes? Why so angry? You're still just a kid. The naked eye could no longer capture the two rapid movers. Jomo's sarcastic voice sounded as if it came from the void. Wanda was at a loss again, realizing not only her brother was childish, but this mysterious person was equally childish. Shouldn't the last line have been spoken by the sibling duo? Of course, as the object of her inner sarcasm, Wanda still cast her older brother as the protagonist. If he wanted to kill you, he'd have done it long ago. He's just been teasing you all along. Why are you really angry? A boy's mind truly baffles people. But what made Wanda happy was that, as the one who knows Quicksilver best, she saw that perhaps due to Jomo's massive pressure, Quicksilver had clearly become stronger. Friday's analysis shows that Quicksilver now also reaches 16 direction changes per second. Seeing Quicksilver occasionally get knocked into a void, Captain America asked, what about the little dinosaur? The little dinosaur is even faster than the strengthened Quicksilver. Captain America wants his data. Friday replied succinctly, sorry, that's the limit of my analytical ability. Captain America was stunned. Clearly, Friday could analyze the enhanced Quicksilver but couldn't handle the little dinosaur's data at all. Even Captain America could see that from the start, the little dinosaur never gave his all. Unsurprisingly, Quicksilver was battered and bruised, falling to the ground. Frankly, Flash Star's weakness, or rather shortcoming, is insufficient attack power. Quicksilver's condition is simply due to insufficient physical resilience. His loss of combat ability came from his own stamina being exhausted. The previous scene replayed, with Flash Star looking down at Quicksilver. When their eyes met, Flash Star saw Quicksilver's gaze become completely clear. Seizing the moment, Wanda behind him used magic, her pupils flashing red as she called out to Flash Star. "Hey!" The instant they saw this, Stark's heart leapt to his throat, his eyes bulging as if about to pop out of his sockets. That's it. Scarlet Witch Wanda used this move to manipulate Hulk's mind, causing him to lose control. Immediately, this mysterious little dinosaur is about to be bewitched by her too. And this is exactly what Wanda wants to do. Of course, she doesn't want Jomo to go berserk, she just wants him to suppress his mutant ability, calm down, and thereby save her foolish brother. Wanda knows she can't match Jomo, mind manipulation is the best option. She's seen Jomo's powers, fire, ice, and now rapid movement. Even if all those abilities were combined, they couldn't block mental control. Later, once he's controlled, she can ask him what secrets he holds. While Wanda was thinking this, she heard Jomo, whom she had called, slowly turn his head to look. Stark's eyes widened, so nervous he forgot to breathe. Does this little dinosaur not have any sense of defense? Why does he obediently turn around when someone calls him? Stark was anxious, another faster little dinosaur was added to the enemy ranks, what would they do later? Can they win? The next second, a scene that shocked Stark occurred. While turning his head, Flash Star was switching to Wild Demon Vine, and the switch completed at the moment the head turn was finished. Instantly, Stark's heart clenched. How did his superpower change again? Due to the expansion of his body after transformation, Wild Demon Vine blinked an innocent eye and looked down. After seeing this, Wanda's face turned slightly pale from the sudden change, but she couldn't care less, and forcibly stabilized her emotions, activating her ability. Her eyes fixed on Wild Demon Vine, red magic flowing in her pupils, Wanda softly spoke, issuing an order, "Release all superpowers, stop, be quiet." As her voice fell, the picture froze, and the world was silent. Seeing Wild Demon Vine not moving, Wanda's eyes revealed joy, and the corners of her mouth slightly raised. Success. Then, she saw Wild Demon Vine raise its palm and scratch its head. Wanda, actually your ability is ineffective against me. Instantly, the smile on Wanda's face froze. Ineffective. He not only knows that I have the ability to bewilder people, but he's also immune to it. Stark and his group were equally stunned. This short sentence was like a boulder smashing into a calm lake, setting off a stormy sea in their hearts. Even Hulk can be easily bewitched by Wanda, but this plant person is completely unaffected. Soon, Stark realized another extremely terrifying thing. The unease on Stark's face did not fade because of Wanda's failed bewitchment, but instead became so intense that his brows furrowed into a knot. This you-know-who. Why does he have so many mutant abilities? Before it was fire, ice, then a little dinosaur with extremely fast speed, and now a plant person. How does he have so many mutant abilities? Where did they all come from? A sudden, inexplicable thought popped into his head. Stark guessed that you-know-who's mutant abilities couldn't be that he evolved them, right? A mutant who can evolve infinitely. Just thinking about it made Stark shudder in fear. If that's the case, then it's too scary. However, Stark immediately denied his guess. The speed-type little dinosaur can barely match Quicksilver, but the newly appeared plant person can't be matched. Breathing out a long breath of stale air, his breathing returned to normal, and Stark smiled. He didn't forget that the current you-know-who is one of them. What? Wanda was frightened, her face turning pale again, and she subconsciously took a step back. This was the first time she had encountered this situation. One of her trump cards was completely ineffective after being used. Seeing Wanda's obviously frightened face, Jomo wanted to considerately change to another form. For girls, Wild Demon Vine is indeed a bit scary. But thinking that Wanda might, for the sake of her brother, launch an unfair sneak attack on him, Jomo continued to maintain his state. A major characteristic of Wild Demon Vine is immunity to poisonous gas and hypnosis. At this time, Wanda's ability to bewilder people is only effective against Hulk, but Wild Demon Vine can easily resist it. Wild Demon Vine controlled a large number of vines in its legs, and the whole person rolled forward like a tank. Leaving his back view, Wild Demon Vine waved his hand. Forget it, it's no fun playing with you guys, I'm going to find Ultron. Behind him, watching Wild Demon Vine's back, Wanda frowned, her lips slightly parted, and she blinked constantly and rapidly due to confusion. She realized that she and Pietro had been fighting this you-know-who for a long time. Even with both of them using their full strength, they still hadn't figured out how strong the other party was. The words that Hydra said to her echoed in her ears, that she would be the most powerful mutant. Wanda felt that these words were absurd. Clearly, this guy in front of her is the strongest. Quicksilver on the ground got up in embarrassment, lowered his head, and stopped talking. This time, he was convinced by the beating. Then, facing his sister's scolding pointed at his nose, he didn't say a word either. Confirming that you-know-who really had no intention of harming her and her brother, the situation returned to being lively. The siblings talked for a while and chose to follow Jomo, stating that they wanted to fight Ultron together. The information was relayed by Friday. The Avengers were shocked after learning this, and then pleasant smiles bloomed, already vaguely seeing victory waving at them. The most headache-inducing thing for them in this mission was the Wanda siblings. Now that they have left Ultron and returned to the human camp, then things will be much simpler next. Charge in, kill Ultron, destroy the lifting device. They are full of confidence in this simple, direct, and most useful battle plan. Even Stark, who has the deepest thoughts, is no exception, and breathed a sigh of relief. Then, taking advantage of the gap, Stark analyzed Jomo again. Friday replayed the previous footage and intercepted key information one by one. The figures of Fire Man, Flash Star, and Wild Demon Vine appeared on the helmet display screen. After observation, Stark quickly found the common point: they all have a graphic logo resembling an X on their bodies. Stark issued an order, and Friday captured this pattern for analysis and search. Unsurprisingly, nothing was found. Stark frowned, his intuition telling him that you-know-who's ability is related to this. But, nothing was found. Friday can access almost all databases on Earth's network, how could she not find anything? Is it hidden too deep, or is it from an alien planet? After thinking about it, Stark still prefers the former. One is that being from outer space is too ridiculous, and the other is that he has no good feelings towards aliens. Taking a deep breath to regain his seriousness, Stark decided that he must not let this guy run away after the mission is over. He wants to have a good chat with him and learn about him. Rumble. The trembling of the ground happened to greet Stark's restored seriousness. Sokovia in the picture clearly began to shake violently. Ultron's plan has begun. The ground shook violently, and the thrust of the lifting device caused the town underfoot to begin to rise. Wanda's face panicked again. The scene in front of her was exactly the same as the scene she saw in Ultron's eyes. The countdown to the destruction of humanity has begun. Subconsciously, Wanda's anxious gaze suddenly turned to Wild Demon Vine, placing all her hope on this most powerful you-know-who. The thing that made Wanda puzzled happened. She didn't see any trace of panic on Wild Demon Vine's body, not even a sliver. Wild Demon Vine even curled up the corners of his mouth into a smile after sensing all of this. This made Wanda extremely puzzled. Isn't he here to stop Ultron? Then why can he still laugh when he sees Ultron's plan begin? Humanity may be destroyed. Immediately afterwards, Wanda, who had just retracted her gaze from Wild Demon Vine, saw that everywhere her eyes could reach was densely packed. All of them were Ultron robots. They were like a swarm of insects, forming a wall, covering the sky and the sun. And there was a constant stream of Ultron robots flying in from all directions, gathering here. This one glance almost gave Wanda trypophobia. The Avengers were shocked after seeing this, and were also obviously frightened. The figures of Ultron robots have completely filled the screens in front of them. They knew there were many Ultron robots. But they didn't expect there to be so many. Except for Banner, everyone, including Stark, was like ants on a hot pot, anxiously thinking about the same question. How to fight so many Ultron robots? Jomo switched to four-armed overlord, and grinned when his four fists collided. You two take one each. Leave the rest to me. The siblings widened their eyes after hearing this, looking over in horror as if they had seen a ghost. Leave it all to you. When the two looked over, four-armed overlord bent his legs and jumped hard, and the whole person had already flown away like a rocket. When he was fighting Quicksilver to unlock Flash Star just now, he was being too cautious. Now there are so many Ultron robots for me to kill. Just thinking about it made four-armed overlord face flush with excitement, and several streams of air spurted out of his nostrils. Awesome. Cool. And seeing four-armed overlord rushing towards the Ultron swarm. Compared to the siblings, the mature heroes thought more deeply, frowning, and their eyes showed a bit of disbelief. They already know the powerful strength of this mysterious mutant. But can he eliminate all of these Ultron robots by himself? They are skeptical about this, and still want to quickly join the battlefield to help share the pressure. Not to mention anything else, with such a huge number of enemies, even if he stood still and let them kill him, he wouldn't be able to finish killing them even if humanity was destroyed. The four-armed overlord simultaneously threw two punches from his left side, directly punching through three Ultron robots. Immediately after, he grabbed the shoulders of the Ultron robot in front of him with both hands and tore it in half. Then he stepped on the head of another Ultron, jumped forcefully, flattening its head and body, while simultaneously launching himself into the air again. Everything happened in just 2 short seconds, and a dozen or so scrapped Ultron bodies had already fallen. Quicksilver watched, dumbfounded, thinking resentfully, if he had done that to me after trapping me just now, I would have died an even more miserable death than them, right? The siblings then joined the battle, dealing with the Ultron robots rushing towards them. Being in their nascent stage of power, the two naturally couldn't unleash too much combat strength, only managing to take down one every few seconds. As they struggled in battle, Ultron corpses rained down continuously in their peripheral vision. The frequency and sheer number forced both of them to look up. In the sky filled with Ultrons, they looked up and immediately saw a red figure. At this moment, only they, directly beneath the four-armed overlord, had no Ultrons above their heads. All that was there was the four-armed overlord increasingly smaller figure. In such a short time, he had carved out a path, reaching the peak of the Ultron swarm. This freakish physical prowess not only left the siblings dumbfounded but also silenced the experienced Avengers heroes. Whether it was Hawkeye, Banner, and Natasha inside the cabin, or Stark and a few others flying independently outside, all fell silent. Some of them could achieve this if they used all their strength. But there was no fire, no ice, no high-speed movement, and no plant vines. The four-armed overlord accomplished all of this purely with his physical attributes. This is, seriously, a bit too outrageous, isn't it? Banner rubbed his chin, staring thoughtfully at the four-armed overlord, somehow finding the figure familiar. The four-armed overlord, who had fought his way to the peak of the Ultron swarm, did not stop. He leapt up, soaring above all the Ultrons. Fire Man. Jomo silently recited in his mind, and his leaping body state switched back to Fire Man. With his hands aimed at the dense swarm of Ultrons below, Fire Man's palm flames erupted radially, engulfing all the Ultrons. Instantly, a giant pillar of fire descended from the sky, swallowing them all. Boom! The pillar of fire dyed the sky red, and rolling heat waves rushed towards the ground. Plants carbonized, cars were blown away, and the siblings used their abilities to hide far away, watching with pounding hearts. Just as they recovered, they saw a massive amount of charred Ultron corpses raining down. The sky, once obscured by the Ultron swarm, returned to a clear blue, with only a few Ultron stragglers remaining. The siblings stood frozen in place, as if their souls had been snatched away. War Machine couldn't help but let out an incredulous gasp. He instantly killed all the Ultron robots with one move. At this moment, the Avengers heroes were no longer silent, they began to question their lives. Even Thor, who came from Asgard, wondered if he was truly fit to be a heavenly palace warrior after seeing this. He was clearly the son of Odin, the All-Father, wielding Mjolnir, so why did he suddenly feel so weak? Hawkeye, most sensitive to superpowers, immediately flared up. Where in the world did this guy come from? As a level 7 agent who had worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. for over a decade, Hawkeye swore. This was the first time he had ever heard of such a person. The Ultron swarm that would probably take them half a day to deal with was completely annihilated in one move by some guy who suddenly appeared and whose name they didn't even know. When did such a powerful mutant suddenly appear on Earth? Natasha smiled helplessly and comforted him. Look on the bright side, Clint, he's helping us. Hawkeye was indeed appeased, and his breathing gradually calmed down. But lowering his head, he still looked up at Fireman with a heavy heart. Even if he didn't say it explicitly, Stark knew why he was so flustered. Strong. Simply put, Fireman was too strong. So strong that even if he was currently on their side, it made people think too much. S.H.I.E.L.D. secretly built a special glass containment cage out of concern for the Hulk losing control. You know who possessed multiple abilities, and his destructive power far exceeded the Hulk's. Stark couldn't imagine anything that could contain him. Watching Friday take another photo of the four-armed overlord, Stark sighed with a headache. Another form. In Stark's mind, the desire to talk to Fireman quickly even overshadowed the thought of resolving the Ultron crisis. He really had so many questions he wanted to ask. The good news was, it wouldn't be long. Looking at the empty sky in the image, a huge weight fell from Stark's heart, and he showed a faint smile. Ultron, all resolved. The shapeshifter's image in his mind had lit up to his chest, and the progress bar reached 83%. Jomo raised an eyebrow in dissatisfaction. Killed so many, and only unlocked this much. The combat experience points generated by killing each one were completely random, and this was Jomo's unluckiest time so far. Looking around, there wasn't a single Ultron robot to be found. Jomo was worried that the shapeshifter might fail to unlock. Then he saw more Ultron robots flying in from the horizon, and was immediately overjoyed. It's good that there are still Ultrons. It makes sense, doesn't it? It can send duplicates all over the world, so how could I wipe them out in one wave? Fireman flew towards them joyfully. Wanda, however, couldn't be happy after seeing this. At this point, she had lost all concept of numbers. It was all of them. The number was more than 10 times that of before. Dense, swarming, wave after wave, all Ultron robots. And Wanda could clearly sense that this time, the Ultrons were coming with anger. Her intuition told her that the Ultron's true form was among them. As for the reason, it wasn't hard to guess. The Avengers hadn't arrived yet, and Jomo was the only one it detected who could disrupt its plan, so it decided to come personally to stop him. The Avengers heroes, who had been happy for less than 2 seconds, felt like they were on a roller coaster. If before they were silent, now they were numb. Besides these Ultron robots, which were like waves constantly emerging, wave after wave. They also saw news updates from Friday, showing large numbers of Ultrons spreading fear around the world. The sheer number had reached a point of despair and madness. Fireman's actions on screen didn't stop, but seeing him repeat his large-scale killing of Ultron robots, the Avengers couldn't relax. In fact, if they could, they wished Fireman would quickly stop this meaningless act. Before, they thought there were only so many Ultrons, and once they were all killed, the crisis would naturally be resolved. But now it seemed they were wrong. All of this was futile. Fireman's focus should be on disabling the Ascension device and rescuing the hostages. Especially the former. If it wasn't disabled, killing any number of Ultron robots would be useless. Ultron's true form bringing a large number of robots was very likely a delay tactic. And clearly, Fireman had no intention of touching the Ascension device. In the eyes of the heroes, he was like a stubborn fool, still doing useless work, happily killing Ultron robots. They really wanted to ask, is killing so many useful? They believed that with Fireman's abilities, he could indeed kill all the Ultron robots. But the problem was, by the time he finished, humanity would have already been destroyed. They still had to rely on themselves. Stark quickly made deployments, issuing a plan to destroy the device first upon landing, and simultaneously communicating with S.H.I.E.L.D. about evacuating local residents. Unfortunately, Jomo couldn't hear the questions in the Avengers heroes' hearts. If he could, he would definitely reply. Yes, brother, it's useful. Another large group of Ultron robots was killed by a single blaze, and the combat experience bar was instantly filled. Swish. The shapeshifter's image instantly lit up. Shapeshifter, unlocked successfully. Tony Stark shifted his attention to communicating with S.H.I.E.L.D. Seeing the fireman in the screen stop moving, he merely glanced at him before looking away. In this situation, they could only rely on themselves. It made sense. How could the Avengers place their hopes on a you-know-who who suddenly appeared? During the call, Tony Stark learned that S.H.I.E.L.D. had dispatched a large number of rescue airships, which finally put him somewhat at ease. Another piece of good news was that they were less than 10 minutes away from Sokovia. Ending the call, Tony Stark closed his eyes, taking deep breaths, gradually getting himself into battle mode. The Ultron robots around the world are still adhering to the settings I made for them, which prevents them from harming ordinary people. This indicates they won't cause substantial damage. As long as the Ascension device is destroyed, all of this will end. Having organized his thoughts, Tony Stark opened his eyes, revealing a stern, eagle-like gaze. He would never allow Earth's safety to be violated again. Just as he opened his eyes, Tony Stark saw in his helmet display that a large number of Ultron robots continued to roar and charge at the fireman. This time, knowing the fireman's combat power, Tony Stark merely watched calmly, reviewing his upcoming battle plan in his mind, looking for any loopholes. He had silently excluded the fireman from his battle plan. He only kept some attention on the fireman to find him after the battle. But the next second, even though he had already made up his mind, the unfolding situation made Tony Stark involuntarily increase his focus. A hint of obvious astonishment flashed in his stern eyes. He saw that, facing the large number of charging Ultron robots, the fireman slowly flew towards them without any signs of attack. This made Tony Stark frown in confusion. What is he doing? Logically speaking, facing a large number of enemies attacking him, the fireman, who possessed large-scale destructive capabilities, should have extended his hands and sprayed fire, just like before. But Tony Stark saw very clearly that the fireman's hands hung naturally, and his flying speed was definitely unrelated to the word battle. To Tony Stark, it looked more like he was going to meet a friend. While confused, the fireman answered with his actions. At a visible speed, the fireman's body deformed, and the flames on his body quickly extinguished, revealing a black, green, and white skin. Most notably, the fireman's head, which could still be considered somewhat human in structure, transformed into a. Tony Stark's brows furrowed as he stared at the shapeshifter's indistinguishable facial features, experiencing a feeling that could not be described in words. Ball. His newly adjusted attention was completely drawn away again, and Tony Stark was utterly bewildered. This guy changed again. Coming to his senses, Tony Stark's heart sank, and his eyes widened in horror. How did this guy change again? Immediately after, under Tony Stark's gaze, an even stranger scene unfolded. Following the inertia left by the fireman's flight, the shapeshifter directly floated into the nearest Ultron robot. Frantically, he subconsciously rubbed the helmet's eyes with his armored hand, and Tony Stark confirmed he wasn't mistaken. The shapeshifter went straight in. The whole person, gone. His mind, shaken, crashed directly, and Tony Stark, his face covered in disbelief, exclaimed. Where did such a big person go? The shapeshifter's sudden disappearance made the Ultron robot swarm stop, like a herd of beasts sniffing danger. Immediately, countless Ultron robot eyes simultaneously fixed on the Ultron robot at the very front. Their greatest perceived threat had suddenly and inexplicably entered the body of one of their companions. Even Ultron himself, as a mechanical life form, could feel this strangeness. That Ultron robot's body underwent a noticeable change, turning from its original silver-white to a black-green-white blend. What exactly happened? With caution, Ultron himself attempted to contact that replica. This was his greatest advantage, his consciousness could freely travel among all his replicas. As soon as his consciousness showed signs of probing, it was forcibly bounced back. This made Ultron even more vigilant, ordering all replicas to cease action. At this moment, the Ultron robot replicated by the shapeshifter became the focus of everyone's attention. Whether it was Ultron, Wanda, Quicksilver, or the Avengers, all staring at it, they wondered, what exactly happened. Even the Avengers heroes, standing on the side of humanity, felt their blood run cold at this bizarre scene. Click-clack. The sound of twisting and breaking metal came as the shapeshifter twisted the Ultron robot replica into a ball and expelled it from its body, then stood in place, energy jets firing from its feet. After seeing this, Tony Stark's heart sank abruptly. After a few seconds of stunned, he mumbled blankly, "Guys, I think I know what his ability is." Captain America subconsciously asked, "What?" Looking over, Captain America couldn't see Tony Stark's face inside the helmet, but he saw Vision's extremely solemn expression. Tony Stark's voice was even weaker. He seems to be able to control machinery. His voice, weak with despair, contained a short sentence that, once understood by Captain America, made his heart skip a beat, and goosebumps instantly rose all over him. Thor, on the other side of the plane, saw Captain America stunned inside the cabin and felt the team's atmosphere nearly solidify. He asked, puzzled, "It's just controlling a bit of machinery, why does that make you so scared?" War Machine was directly ignited by this question. You should ask, what in the world right now does not have machinery? War Machine couldn't understand, especially since Captain America, who had traveled to the modern world, knew how much this world had changed. How could Thor, who came from an alien planet, be completely ignorant of Earth's technological products? Thor, who had been scolded, blinked and was also stunned. However, unlike the others who were scared, he was seriously contemplating the question. After thinking for a while, Thor turned to Captain America, wanting to ask him, what did War Machine's words mean? His gaze fell on the plane's fuselage, and Thor, as if suddenly enlightened, abruptly widened his eyes in horror. He quickly turned his gaze to Tony Stark and War Machine, and Thor opened his mouth as wide as possible in fear. The plane, Tony Stark's armor, and Friday's server host, all of these are mechanically made. Not just these, Thor also thought of everything from small items like mobile phones and game consoles, to large ones like planes, rockets, and fighter jets. All these things on Earth are mechanically made. And these are spread across every corner of the Earth. The you-know-who's new ability, can it control the entire world? Fully understanding, Thor displayed his characteristic exaggerated reaction, covering his mouth with his other hand, looking around in terror and shouting, "Holy crap! Do you know how terrifying he is? He can control machinery, and the entire Earth is full of machinery, which means he can control the entire Earth." Everyone automatically ignored Thor, whose reactions were a bit delayed. Tony Stark's face was as gloomy as his state of mind. This was the reason for his despair. If the opponent wanted to, he could very likely control his armor. That Ultron robot just now was the best proof. Furthermore, Tony Stark, staring at the shapeshifter's feet, also discovered that this wasn't simple control. He could also reassemble the controlled machinery according to his will. The shapeshifter's feet were stepping on the Ultron robot's foot-mounted ascension device. Even if he didn't want to face it, Tony Stark had to admit that Thor's seemingly redundant summary was the most accurate. If the shapeshifter wanted to, he really seemed to be able to control anything on Earth. Suddenly thinking of something, cold sweat trickled down his forehead, and Tony Stark's pupils instantly constricted to pinpricks. Looking at the massive number of Ultron robots on the screen, Tony Stark almost screamed out loud. Since he can control one Ultron robot, then can he also? Whether to test the shapeshifter's strength or to wipe it out for good, Ultron fired twin energy beams from his eyes straight at the creature. In response, the shapeshifter shot its own beam right back. ZZZZT. The two mechanical lifeforms clashed in a beam struggle. Bang! The shapeshifter's green light punched through Ultron's crimson ray and blew his head apart. Rings flashed as the shapeshifter quipped, "Looks like you never heard the rule. Whoever's on the left always loses a beam duel." Ultron's voice came from behind the creature. Direction is irrelevant. Victory is decided by numbers. An instant later his consciousness shifted to a fresh body directly in front of the shapeshifter. Ultron spread his arms. "I am everywhere, how do you defeat this many of me?" Hope drained from Captain America's eyes, they dimmed once more. Natasha glanced at the others, voicing what Steve couldn't. Was I the only one who thought he could seize control of Ultron? Every face she met wore the same defeat. Catching her gaze, Hawkeye shrugged in silent agreement. Expectations shattered, Dr. Banner offered the explanation. As you just saw, Ultron can relocate his consciousness at will. He didn't need to spell it out, they all understood. Ultron demonstrated again, casually jumping to another body the instant before his head exploded. Even if the shapeshifter had pinned the Prime unit, Ultron would simply hop away a split second before control could take hold, rendering the attempt useless. Their attention swung back to the shapeshifter, expressions now mixed. The creature wasn't as mighty as they'd hoped, whether that was good or bad, none could tell. Only Stark stayed silent, eyes locked on the shapeshifter with fanatic intensity. In Stark's view, the shapeshifter had never failed to take control. Because it had never tried to dominate Ultron in the first place. His heart pounded so hard he felt it in his throat, gripped by a premonition so strong it scared him. A premonition that, if true, would terrify even him. Humans are the most despicable species I know. To safeguard peace, humanity must be annihilated. Ultron added softly, and you cannot stop it. The moment the words fell, the Ultron swarm surged again, a hideous tide rushing at the shapeshifter. Clanks and mechanical roars swallowed the sky. But before the din could drown everything, the shapeshifter spoke. He raised his hand and slowly curled it into a fist. Then we unite, together, to take you down. The Avengers flinched, looking around in shock. Could you know who have backup? Ultron laughed. You're alone. From the corner of his optic he spotted one of his bots already charging the shapeshifter from behind, almost within striking distance. The creature held its pose, seemingly oblivious, and Ultron's voice brimmed with amusement. You'll do nothing but watch. Exactly as predicted, the bot's eyes pooled energy, about to blast the shapeshifter through the spine. Human. Yet the instant before the beam fired, the shapeshifter's back stretched like a net and yanked the bot inside its body. It looked as though it had simply swallowed the machine. That instant coincided with the final curl of its fingers. At the crucial moment, it became the very Ultron bot it had just absorbed. To be Dester. Tap. A faint sound, the fist closed. Ultron's voice cut off mid-word. Simultaneously, the entire swarm froze mid-air, locked in place as if time itself had stopped. The sky fell silent. To Wanda and her brother below, it looked exactly like a time stop. About to snap his fingers, Jomo hesitated, then simply said, I'm the shapeshifter. Snap. Countless Ultron bodies crumpled, folding into scrap that rained like metallic hail, while the Avengers stood motionless, staring in stunned disbelief. Stark felt an iron hand clench his heart. A grunt escaped as every ounce of air was forced from his lungs. His limbs went weak. Had Friday not seized control he would have plummeted. His worst fear had materialized. The shapeshifter had seized Ultron. Dr. Banner's worry had been pointless. There'd been no chance for Ultron to jump. Every single bot now knelt to the shapeshifter. Stark understood the method. Subvert one unit, ride the network, own the entire Ultron collective. But how long? From the moment it swallowed that lone bot to the instant it commanded every Ultron on Earth, how many seconds? Had the whole process even taken 1 second? In less than a second the creature had enslaved tens of thousands of Ultron units. Stark's pupils shook. He couldn't fathom how it had been done. Forget that Ultron descended from the super AI Jarvis and bristled with cyber defenses. Ultron's very mind was built from the Mind Stone. How had the shapeshifter hacked that in an instant? Stark paled, shivering at the next thought. Could it hijack Vision, who housed the Mind Stone itself? He jerked his head, forcibly cutting the idea off, too terrified to pursue it. Several deep breaths did nothing to calm the storm inside him. He'd expected to lead the Avengers in a grinding, bloody war against Ultron. Like every cliched script, or their own past battles, grind until the brink of defeat, then pull off a last-second miracle and call themselves heroes. He'd already psyched himself up for exactly that. But now, from the first glimpse of Ultron to total victory, the shapeshifter had needed under 30 seconds. The boss they'd struggled to beat together had been one-shotted by a passerby. Stark couldn't accept it. Friday's voice crackled across the comm. All Ultron units worldwide have been neutralized, only Sokovia remains. The words detonated among the Avengers. Worldwide. In that same instant the creature had seized every Ultron on the planet. Stark couldn't even guess the mechanism. The simplest fact, every signal has range limits. Ultron shipped his bots physically across the globe. On arrival they executed pre-loaded terror routines. 1,000 questions condensed into one. How did he do it? Panting, Stark barked at Friday, divert every satellite, lock onto the mutant. Do not lose him until I'm face to face. He'd assumed the shapeshifter needed touch to possess machines. Clearly that wasn't necessary. With a single thought the creature could turn modern Earth into its private playground. Whatever the cost, Stark had to meet this being. Fortunately, he wouldn't wait long. Only minutes remained until arrival in Sokovia. He would confront the shapeshifter, personally. The helmet display replayed the scene of the shapeshifter swallowing that robot from behind. Friday's real-time analysis spoke. Sir, based on the data, the shapeshifter should be composed of nanoscale mechanical cells. Estimated cell count is in the hundreds of millions. Stark was already brimming with anticipation for the coming meeting. That single sentence lit his eyes like torches. Nanoscale mechanical cells. It made sense, only nanotech could let the shapeshifter's body warp so drastically. Stark couldn't help but be thrilled. Nanotech was exactly his field. Unable to hide his excitement, Stark said, Friday, lock the coordinates, I'm going straight to the shapeshifter. Stark felt he'd stumbled upon a treasure trove. After his order, only silence answered. Sensing something wrong, Stark wiped the smile off his face. Friday. A few seconds later, Friday's faint voice returned. Sir, my network's been breached, calibration failed. Before Stark could figure out what happened, he felt the armor lose control and change course. Helpfully, the helmet displayed a nav map. The destination was the launch device. Stark barked, switched to manual. This time, even longer passed. Friday fell completely silent and the suit didn't respond at all. As the pilot, Stark had zero control. He could only watch the armor take him where he didn't want to go. Then a satellite feed showed the shapeshifter looking up at the sky. Indirectly, Stark locked eyes with it. Clearly, the shapeshifter had hacked the Avengers as well. Twitching, Stark cursed, even if you confess, you're still a bad kid. The shapeshifter narrowed its eyes in a smile, and the satellite feed cut out. Looks like it spotted me, and doesn't want me spotting it. Reading its intent, Stark also narrowed his eyes craftily. But do you really think you can get away? On the plane, the others felt the flight path shift sharply. After seeing the shapeshifter's grin on their screen, they sighed and accepted the forced detour. Watching Stark, War Machine, and the plane all change direction, Thor had to follow. Thor shouted, where are we even going? Even without comms, Thor's booming voice carried straight into War Machine's ears. War Machine felt inexplicably weary but still explained, the shapeshifter hijacked the command net, we're flying to wherever it wants. Hearing that, Thor yelled even louder, what? Command is in New York, and Friday's inside the system. How did the shapeshifter pull this off from so far away? Wait. Thor was freaked. If it can hack Friday, could it hack your human nuke systems too? Stark turned his head in disgust. If the shapeshifter really wanted that, it wouldn't have bothered stopping Ultron. Ultron's crisis was worse than nuclear war. As for how Ultron itself could access the internet, through it, the shapeshifter breached Friday and the satellites. If it could crush the Mind Stone built Ultron in seconds, these two were child's play. Probably took less than half a second, Stark mused. After wiping out Ultron's main force, Jomo simply poofed. The shapeshifter flattened into a pancake and floated away. Flash Star instantly vanished to wrap things up. Jomo hid in an empty house as Ultron streaked past the window. For safety he briefly morphed into the shapeshifter and tinkered together some weapons. Hugging a backpack of guns, Jomo crouched by the window. My part's done, now it's their turn. To avoid butterfly effects, Jomo chose not to mess with the timeline. Let the Avengers handle the crisis, S.H.I.E.L.D. rescue the people, and of course, Quicksilver still gets his exit ticket. That's why he hadn't wiped Ultron out completely. Could have, but no need. Soon, loud battle sounds erupted outside, explosions coming one after another. Gradually, the fighting quieted down. Knock knock knock. An agent rapped on the door. Anyone in there? Yes yes yes. Jomo raised a hand and trotted over. The door opened. Jomo saw agents moving house to house through the ruined street, searching for survivors. One agent warned, come with us, this town's about to be leveled. Okay. Jomo followed the team, looking around to avoid bumping into the Avengers. At the evacuation point, civilians lined up, boarding airship after airship. As Jomo expected, the post-battle heroes and S.H.I.E.L.D. agents stood at the exit, questioning each person. Stark in particular looked dead serious. Looks like they're here for me. Jomo racked his brain. Fury stood with hands behind his back, looking down. Stark, this is a needle in a haystack move. Tens of thousands of people and you don't even know what he looks like. Stark said nothing, but the anxiety on his face deepened. If you know who had morphed into Fireman and flown off, he'd still have a shot. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s primary and backup satellites had locked down the island. Any anomaly would be caught. But the guy chose to hide here, blending into the crowd. Watching another huge wave of people approaching, Stark's heart sank. Fury was right, he really was searching for a needle in a haystack. Stark felt unwilling. Was he going to miss Earth's most powerful mutant? But the shapeshifter had wiped out Ultron's main force, making their fight easier and buying rescue time. Now time was running out. With no hope left, Stark asked, "Are you a mutant?" The woman holding a child looked blank. "What's a mutant?" Stark closed his eyes wearily and waved her through. Like a bucket of ice water, Stark opened his eyes with a bitter smile. He'd lost hope. He'd overlooked the key point. Could someone that powerful be found so easily? Maybe he'd already flown away. Or maybe his disguise had fooled Stark and he'd long since boarded an airship. The last few people didn't wait for the question, they simply repeated, "What's a mutant?" Powerless, Stark let them pass. He had no way to verify. This dumb, only method was all he had. Watching the next wave, Stark drew a deep breath and decided. One last round, if nothing turned up, he'd find another way. No matter what, he had to find you-know-who. Earth needed protectors. How else to find him? Have S.H.I.E.L.D. log everyone's info and follow up later. While musing, Stark listlessly repeated to the young man at the front, "Are you a mutant?" The youth shot back, "I'm here to escape." Even wearier, Stark asked, "So, are you a mutant?" The youth was tired too. Of course not. That answer made Stark's eyes light up instantly. "I'm just an ordinary guy." Seeing Stark's grin, the youth sensed trouble. Glancing sideways, he found Natasha already behind him, smiling mysteriously. Several agents rushed over and surrounded him. Natasha beamed, "Handsome, do you know why the news only uses terms like superheroes and supervillains? Because every government is hiding the existence of mutants. An ordinary person wouldn't know mutants exist tilde." Hearing that, Jomo screamed inwardly, "Crap. It's a trap. These old foxes fight dirty, lying and ambushing a young rookie like me." Excited, Stark grabbed Jomo's arm and pulled him the other way. "Dude, congrats, you've won the jackpot. I've got a private jet waiting for you." Just before boarding, Jomo was still struggling. "Mr. Stark, can I skip the award?" "Buddy, the reward is huge." Stark's excited face flushed red as he shoved Jomo onto the plane. Feeling Jomo's strong resistance, Stark reluctantly stopped. "Can you stay still?" Jomo clutched his backpack and shook his head. "No way, the one who doesn't move is a turtle. Get on the plane." Without further discussion, Stark increased his force. While being dragged, Jomo, eyes brimming with tears, looked at the agent at the boarding gate. "If I shout that Stark is trafficking people, will you help me? He's one of mine." After the jet bridge, Stark successfully pulled Jomo into the aircraft. Just before the cabin door closed, a hand suddenly lunged out and clutched tightly. Jomo stuck his head out, choking, and shouted, "Come quick. Stark is organizing a human trafficking ring. Buddy, trust me, I have nothing to do with trafficking." Finishing his words, Stark gritted his teeth and, together with another agent on board, forcibly pulled Jomo back. The door shut, and the plane took off. Stark walked to the bar. "Prepare the most lavish food for my guest." "Sure." The agent headed to the kitchen. The agent wasn't supposed to be here, but to entertain Jomo, Stark had specifically requested S.H.I.E.L.D. to send a cook. Carrying his backpack, Jomo reluctantly walked over, and as he sat on the sofa, a mechanical voice suddenly rang out. "Hello." Stark approached holding 2 glasses of wine. "This is my assistant." Glancing at the whiskey bottle, Jomo hummed, "I know, I've seen him on the news, Jarvis, right?" Friday promptly corrected, "Sir, I'd like to politely remind you that I'm not Jarvis, my name is Friday." Jomo didn't understand. "Oh. Is that so?" Friday explained. Yes, after Jarvis was devoured by Ultron and became inoperable, Mr. Stark activated me. Jomo nodded thoughtfully. Got it, but Jarvis, you really are as omnipotent as the news says. Sir, I am Friday. All right, Jarvis, I'll remember you as Jarvis. Stark smiled and sat opposite Jomo, pushing a glass of wine toward him. Staring at the glass, Jomo pursed his lips. A spirit without cola, can it be tasty? All right, seems you don't like this. Stark turned his head and shouted, Chef, please bring 2 glasses of juice. After speaking, Stark tilted his head back, leaned forward, and rested his arms on his knees. Seeing the light spark in Stark's eyes, Jomo sneered inwardly. Here we go, he's about to drag me into trouble. Stark cut straight to the point. Do you know how dangerous the world we live in is? Feigning fear, Jomo opened his mouth wide and leaned in. I know, just recently Earth was invaded by aliens. Stark's heart leapt. As soon as his mouth opened, Jomo lifted his backpack and slammed it heavily onto the table. Seeing that stance, Stark thought there must be a lot inside. So now I have to carry a weapon everywhere I go for self-defense. Carrying a weapon. That made Stark's smile fade. Even such a powerful mutant needs a weapon for self-defense. Look. Jomo opened his backpack and handed something to Stark. Stark looked at the palm-sized object, leaned in, and sniffed. It gave off a faint fragrance. Jomo earnestly said, on the surface, this is a Chinese bun from our east. Bun. On a whim, Stark took a bite. After 2 chews he nodded. Indeed, it was beef and corn filling. Beep, beep, beep. Stark stopped chewing. He heard the bun emit an alarm sound. Actually, Jomo took the bun back, gave it a firm press, and the alarm ceased. It's a bomb. Stark was stunned, his mouth agape in surprise, exposing the beef corn filling. Bun bomb. No, not that. Who the heck would stuff a bomb into a bun? Seeing Jomo rummaging in his backpack again, Stark hesitated, should he eat the filling or spit it out? Unable to find a trash can, Stark clenched his teeth and swallowed it whole. Since he felt no abnormality, he just ate it. With some crumbs left in his mouth, Stark lifted his glass, ready to take a sip. He then saw Jomo pull out a hand grenade. On the surface, this is a hand grenade. Click. Jomo pulled the grenade's pin. Holding his glass mid-air, Stark's heart stopped. Actually. He flipped the grenade, and with a buzzing sound, Jomo brushed the grenade's base across his own chin. It's an electric shaver. Stark gulped down a sip of wine, too nervous to act rashly. After reinserting the pin, the shaver stopped working. Jomo pulled a pistol from his bag. On the surface, this is a kindness gun. Stop. I don't want the surface view, just tell me what it actually is. Jomo innocently blinked. Actually, it's just a pistol. Stark felt his intelligence being insulted. Holding the pistol with both hands, Jomo looked down and sighed regretfully. What a pity, it can't fire bullets. Stark could no longer tolerate it. What kind of gun can't fire bullets? Jomo widened his eyes and raised his head. That's why I call it the kindness gun. Mr. Stark, are you even listening to me seriously? Heat surged through his veins. Stark opened his mouth but no sound came out. This is nothing like what he expected. Why does this guy's vibe differ from the lone hero who saved humanity? Could it be the wrong person? No, among tens of thousands of people, only he knows about mutants. How could it be unrelated to you-know-who? Enough, I won't show you any more. Jomo, angry, packed his things. These were treasures he painstakingly modified with the shapeshifter. Stark, that old-fashioned fool, knows nothing. At that moment, the agent delivered 2 glasses of fresh juice and left. His brain racing, Stark instinctively took a sip of the juice. Sweet watermelon juice. Luckily, there was no, on the surface, comment this time. Without the previous teasing, Stark became much more serious. How did you know mutants exist? Jomo wore a clueless expression. From the newspaper. Stark frowned, wondering how the government could be blocking information yet still have mutant news in the papers. Stark regretted his habit of never reading newspapers. Leaning back on the sofa cushion, Stark eyed Jomo repeatedly, asking more directly, are you a mutant? Jomo stared at the juice, suspecting Stark might drug him. No. This time Jomo truly wasn't lying. his ability came from the clumsy watch, not from mutant powers. He massaged his temples hard. Stark's mind was a mess. Jomo's surface versus actually routine completely scrambled Stark's thoughts, making him forget his original question. Stark closed his eyes, still rubbing his temples. So all your information comes from reading newspapers? Yes. Jomo thought of a few Marvel Universe papers, Daily Bugle, New York News, and the like. Stark grew even more exhausted, painfully leaning his head back. He realized the possibility was real. Some tabloids, for sales, secretly published mutant news. Stark's voice trembled with pain. Then what other news did you see? Jomo kept staring at the juice, his mind wandering. I saw you seemed poisoned, constantly drinking vegetable juice to ease the condition. Stark gave up completely. How could a newspaper even know that? Mr. Stark, what fruit was this juice squeezed from? Hearing Jomo's eager question, Stark, his thoughts elsewhere, replied offhand, take a guess. What looks green but is actually squeezed into red juice? Jomo thought seriously, his face turning unusually terrified. His gaze slid from the juice to Stark's face. Frog. Mr. Stark, you like juicing frogs. Stark almost spewed blood at Jomo after hearing that. Fool frog. Watermelon. It's watermelon juice. The refreshing watermelon juice slid down his throat, sweetness blooming across his tongue, and Jomo couldn't help sighing, full on flavor. Just then the agent finished cooking and brought the food over. A plate of tomato spaghetti and a grilled steak. Knowing Jomo disliked hard liquor, he also poured a glass of wine. Jomo took a careful sip. The wine was first astringent, then sweet-sour, with a long mellow finish, something even a teetotaler could accept. He nodded his approval and parked the glass beside him, then dug in. Watching Jomo lift the plate and fork spaghetti into his mouth, Stark folded his arms, eyes raking over him again and again with a complicated look. When he finally spoke, Stark sounded defeated. Buddy, can I get your name? With his mouth full, Jomo mumbled, Che Guevara. Stark nodded. The name did sound Chinese. Stark asked again, so what do you do for a living? Setting the plate down, cheeks bulging with pasta, Jomo said, no job. Working's impossible. I'll never work a day in my life. Chef, another spaghetti. Before tackling the steak, Jomo took a big gulp of wine. He discovered he actually liked this low-proof stuff. No job. Stark hadn't expected that. He shifted tack. If you need work, I can help. As the only lead, Stark couldn't let Jomo slip away. Jomo forked a piece of steak into his mouth, far more refined than before. If I ever work, I wouldn't be called Che Guevara. Stark found the remark baffling. Sure, Jomo could hug Stark's thigh and join the Avengers. But then every enemy of the Avengers would instantly mark him for revenge, way too dangerous. Until the Dormammu crisis hanging over him was resolved, Jomo wouldn't take any risks. The TV broadcast the Ultron incident, spotlighting how the shapeshifter had indirectly saved humanity. Stark watched absent-mindedly while Jomo kept eating the whole way. As the sun set, the plane touched down smoothly in New York. Before disembarking, backpack slung, Jomo gave Stark a warm hug. Thought you were trafficking me, turns out you really flew me home. Thanks, Mr. Stark, you're a good guy. Stark answered with a skin-deep smile. Shouldn't the whole world already know I'm a good guy? Standing inside the cabin, Stark watched Jomo's back recede until it vanished, then sighed. Is it really him? Just as he turned to go back inside, Friday's voice came. Sir, I've searched all reports of the past 2 years, none mention your palladium poisoning. His foot froze mid-step, Stark's body jolted. None. A moment later his soul landed. Stark frowned, still not enough to confirm Jomo was you-know-who. But I've got my eye on you now. Back in his home base of New York, finding someone he'd met would be easy. Outside the airport, Jomo was stunned by Stark's wealth. A private airfield like a manor, took forever to walk out. Rich people really have it good. After sighing, Jomo looked around. Wilderness in every direction, how was he supposed to get back? His gaze fell on 2 men nearby, obvious shield agents beside a white van, doubtless stuffed with high-tech. As expected, the 2 suddenly tapped their earpieces, got some signal, spun round and ran back into the airport. They showed no wariness toward Jomo walking out. He brushed past them, glanced to be sure they were gone, then swerved 90 degrees toward the van. Consider this a reward for helping wipe out Ultron. Seeing no key through the window, he yanked the door open and the van rattled off. A while later the two agents came running back. You have to prep the mission files before seeing the director. How could we forget something that important? Mid-run, one berated his partner, the next second both stopped dead, stared at the empty space ahead, and exchanged glances. Where's the van? Inside the airport, Stark walked toward the runway to meet the incoming SHIELD jet. Fury, Natasha and Hawkeye came down. They briefed Stark that the rescue mission had gone off without a hitch. Of course, they hadn't forgotten to explain why Wanda and Quicksilver hated Stark so much. Thinking of Quicksilver, who had died saving people, Stark felt even more guilty. Right. Fury changed the subject, lifting his chin. Have you confirmed you know whose identity? Stark shook his head. I have a candidate, can't be sure. Fury gave a meaningful glance behind him. Then, what's the name of the guy who just walked out of here? Che Guevara. Seeing Fury's expression darken, Stark pressed, did he do something? Fury smiled. My subordinate reported that he stole our van, with our equipment inside. Stark opened his mouth, at a loss for words. That guy's a car thief. Fury's grin stayed put. We need our gear back. Did he leave any message? Stark racked his brain, his expression turning delicate. He said, working for someone is impossible, I'll never work a day in my life. Hawkeye summed it up with a weird look. So this Che Guevara stole a SHIELD van because he doesn't want to work. Stark clawed at his hair. Hard to believe, but, yeah. This style felt more like a petty crook than a solo world-saving hero. Had he really found the wrong guy? The Rolls-Royce cruised homeward, Stark in the back seat gripped a tablet. Seeing the data Friday dug up, Stark was almost certain Jomo was connected to the shapeshifter. Because in the databases, Friday found zero personal info on Che Guevara. And SHIELD still couldn't track the van. Bear in mind, SHIELD gear has built-in trackers. Wiping that signal so quickly that even SHIELD can't find it, only the shapeshifter could pull that off. And Jomo was the only person present at both incidents. Stark had Friday hack New York's surveillance network to hunt for Jomo. Tonight, he would find the guy. The van rolled into a residential area. Spotting a police car ahead, it slowed to a crawl. Gwen sat on a low wall, legs swinging, when flashing headlights caught her eye. She looked up, saw Jomo in the driver's seat, and lit up. The window lowered, Gwen jogged over, eyes sparkling. I saw you, Jomo, you went to save the world. Jomo stepped out, pleased. So, third best in the world. Gwen knew his real identity, she was the only one he could brag to. Yet, recalling that he hadn't gotten to look down at Wanda sitting on the ground this mission, Jomo felt deeply disappointed. He clearly remembered that movie scene. At that angle, Wanda showed real power, greatness. Truly round, no, truly strong and great. Missing it was such a pity. Gwen's tone turned anxious. Then next. Understanding her, Jomo tossed the keys. I'll head back after your dad's asleep. Gwen exhaled, glanced at the keys, then frowned. Wait, where'd this car come from? Jomo walked the other way, half guilty. I saved the world, someone gave it to me. Gwen followed, half doubting, but the logic checked out. Where are you going now? Jomo looked skyward and sighed. Night's here, I'm off downtown to buy a peachwood sword, sticky rice, and ghost-repelling talismans. Gwen was thoroughly bewildered. Ghost talismans. What for? The US is a nation on wheels, even this teen Gwen had her own car. Downtown, Jomo sat in a clapped-out, who knows how many hands Nissan, eyeing a passing Rolls and sighing. Look at them, then look at you, the gap between people. Gwen, focused on driving, bit back. Better than you. You're broke, you can't afford anything. After the jab, she turned serious. Jomo, is living in that underground room really scary? Jomo looked away and shook his head. Gwen grew more puzzled. Then why are you afraid of ghosts? Jomo curled his lip. You don't get it. I'm scared of Dormammu, Heavenly Father level. Understand? Gwen went on. But I know something scarier than ghosts is in New York right now. Jomo, want to team up against Electro with me? As Gwen spoke, the image of the electromagnetic strongman flashed in Jomo's mind. Outside the Chinese feng shui shop downtown, Jomo stepped out carrying a bag, his brow clouded with gloom. Passers-by glanced at Jomo, did a double take, then quickened their steps. Gwen, walking toward him, closed the last 3 steps in 2 and asked worriedly, "What's wrong? Did the owner rip you off?" Jomo shook his head through clenched teeth. "No. Spending money just makes my heart ache." Gwen's gaze shifted to his other hand, which gripped a brand new fruit knife. That was why everyone on the sidewalk sped up as they passed. One hand holding a bulging shopping bag and the other clutching a fruit knife, Jomo strode out of the shop with a grim face. He looked exactly like a shoplifter on a $0 spree. Gwen couldn't fathom what was going on in his head. "So, what's with the knife?" Jomo eyed the fruit knife. "I wanted a peachwood sword to ward off evil, but the owner said they were sold out and told me to make do with this." He lifted his head indignantly. "Gwen, do you think I got scammed?" Gwen scratched her head. "I don't know anything about that stuff." To her foreigner's mind, wood or stainless steel, the effect should be the same, purely psychological anyway. Suddenly Gwen's spider sense flared, she spun toward the far end of the sidewalk. "Looks like there's a thief up ahead." With that she hurried off. "This time you wait for me." "Okay." One last glance at the shop door, and Jomo gave up on going back to argue. He headed for an N-hand Nissan at the curb. He'd barely taken 2 steps when, screech. A Rolls-Royce braked right in front of him. Curious, he looked through the rear window, and both Jomo and Stark widened their eyes in shock. Neither had expected to run into the other here. Stark scrambled out of the car. He guessed the shapeshifter was to blame. Surveillance data simply refused to accept any photo of Jomo. Just as he was fretting over it, he'd bumped straight into Jomo, an unexpected windfall. What luck. Watching Stark approach, Jomo's first instinct was to dodge this tag along, then remembered he wasn't the real Jomo and relaxed. Like old friends reunited, Stark stretched out a hand. Che Guevara. Stark. Jomo moved to shake, but wasn't sure which hand to offer. The next second a muffled boom rang in their ears. They turned to see Spider-Man crash flat on his back. Beast. A ball of electricity shot along the power lines, leapt from a billboard to the ground, and coalesced into Electro, hovering midair. Jomo's eyes lit up. Catch a thief and net Electro. He knew the man's story. Basically a fan gone sour. Back when he was just an electrician, he'd worshipped Spider-Man. But their first meeting came after his mutation. Unable to control his power, he'd been scolded by Spider-Man as a villain. Add in other life blows and he went full dark, vowing to take revenge on society. Jomo itched to unlock electromagnetic strongman, but with Stark glued to his side he had to drop the idea. He still didn't want Stark learning his real identity. Electro glared at Spider-Man and snarled, "Now do you feel my fury?" Gwen steadied her aching waist and stood. "Ah, who are you again?" She glanced at her side, wondering if she'd cracked a rib. That perfunctory line shattered Electro's composure. He flung his arms wide and roared, "You never cared about me. Spider-Man, you don't deserve to be a hero." His roar sent the whole street's voltage haywire, lights flickered and burst, some exploding outright. The 2 men watched in silence. Jomo delivered a cutting verdict, "Fanatics really are nuts." Stark nodded. "Actresses act all aloof in front of fans but melt the moment they see me, those poor followers, duped by a fake persona." At that moment the driver stepped out and urged his boss to flee like any sane pedestrian, but Stark flatly refused. Stark tilted his head back, glanced sideways at Jomo and whispered, "Get yourself out of here, don't worry about me. Oh, and don't go too far." Remembering his boss was Iron Man, the driver nodded and backed off. HMPH, let's see how long you keep pretending. Spider-Man sprang up and grappled with Electro again. As one of Spidey's arch-enemies, Electro packed real punch. Gwen's attack power fell short and soon she was smashed to the ground once more. Ha ha ha. Electro let out a classic villain cackle. "I'll punish everyone who ever ignored me. You'll learn who's the strongest." He was about to press the attack when he froze. Stark. Electro stared, stunned to find he wasn't seeing things. Good heavens, the big shot of New York City was standing right in front of him. Stark, immaculate in suit and coat, hands in pockets. Even with his new mutant powers, Electro couldn't help feeling small. A bottom rung nobody like him had never drawn a Titan's gaze before. Stark offered a gentleman's smile, mouth just opening when a chill brushed his neck. That's right. From behind, Jomo hooked an arm round Stark's neck and pressed the fruit knife's point to his throat. Jomo snarled on, "This is Stark. If you don't stop right now, I'll gut him with one stab." Electro. Stark. Reality check. Electro clearly had no brain, because the threat enraged him. "Arg, shut up. I won't be ignored, this is your punishment." He instantly blasted a bolt of current. It struck the pair. Jomo felt a strange thrill. His pores snapped open, greedily gulping the arcs that danced across his skin. Far from harming him, the jolt shoved electromagnetic strongman's combat experience bar straight to 12%. Apparently he'd absorbed the juice. More reward than punishment, it seemed. Stark fared worse, eyes glazed, knees turning to jelly. If Jomo hadn't been holding him up, he'd have collapsed in a heap. Even so, Stark didn't summon his armor. He was going all in. If he stayed out and Spider-Man still couldn't beat Electro, then unless Jomo used his own powers to transform, they'd all fry together. He can't be feeling too great either, Stark thought weakly, lacking even the strength to turn his head. Then a fierce shout rang beside his ear. "Ha! Let me tell you." Jomo stiffened his neck, voice iron hard. "Either fry us both to death right now. Or I stab Stark dead this instant. Either way, I will never bow to evil." Jomo raised his knife and roared, "Me and evil shall never coexist." Black lines streaked across Stark's forehead, the corners of his eyes twitched uncontrollably. "So whatever happens, I'm the one who dies, huh? And don't you think, compared to Electro, you look more like the villain here?" Furious, Electro zapped them again. Electromagnetic strongman's progress bar rocketed to 50%. "Holy, electromagnetic strongman, is this the bond between you two?" Jomo couldn't help cheering inside. Never had he seen such a perfect start. "Cheer for me. Applaud. No, worship me." Feeling a sudden weight in his arms, Jomo lowered his head and realized that Tony Stark's eyes were unfocused, his eyes rolled back, and he had been electrocuted into a daze. Jomo didn't really intend to do anything to Tony Stark, so he put Tony Stark on the side of the road and thoughtfully let him lean against a lamppost. Seeing Tony Stark open his eyes again, Jomo patted him on the shoulder, not caring whether he could hear him clearly. "Your prank was being a tagalong, mine was getting electrocuted, now we're even." After speaking, Jomo got up and faced Electro. This was also the reason why he could place Tony Stark out of harm's way. Gwen was fighting with Electro again. Relying on the surrounding electricity, Electro easily levitated. And relying on the advantages of the modern city, Gwen, swinging her spider silk between buildings, was not at a disadvantage in terms of speed. The previous disadvantage seemed to have stimulated her potential, and at this moment, Gwen was fighting Electro back and forth without saying a word. The two gradually moved away from their original position, and Jomo's location inexplicably became a safe zone. Realizing this, Jomo disappointedly raised the hand holding the knife and scratched his head. "In that case, wouldn't I not be able to get electrocuted?" Noticing the crowd gathered at the other end of the road, taking pictures with their mobile phones, Jomo helplessly clicked his tongue again. Obviously, in order to protect these stupid onlookers, Gwen deliberately pulled the battlefield away. Jomo rolled his eyes. "The onlookers are fully responsible for ruining my plans." Most of these onlookers were young people. They knew that Electro was dangerous, but when they discovered that Spider-Man was in front of them, they still did what they should do. Took out their mobile phones to take pictures, and prepared to post them online. This dangerous behavior would undoubtedly be scolded by their mothers, but in their eyes, their behavior was so cool. Not to mention that the big star Iron Man Tony Stark was also here. Posting these online, wouldn't the number of likes increase rapidly? However, they were still self-aware enough to stay where they were and gave up looking for Tony Stark. For no other reason than they were also afraid that after Electro returned, he would attack them along with Tony Stark. There were still people who weren't afraid of death. As Jomo withdrew his gaze, a reporter holding a microphone and a cameraman ran towards him, panting. Just as they were looking forward to interviewing Tony Stark, the driver appeared in time and carried Tony Stark away. In turn, they helplessly set their sights on Jomo again. "Sir, I saw that you seemed a little excited after being electrocuted. May I ask if you have any special hobbies? Jomo snorted coldly in his heart, didn't even look at them, and was too lazy to answer the reporter's questions. What special hobbies? I'm perfectly normal, okay. Hey, forget it, these idiots don't understand anything. Those 2 electric shocks just made me feel good. Wait, why do I feel good? Harky electricity, you fool. The 2 reporters, having suffered another setback, simply rushed towards Electro. With the camera constantly zooming in, the audience of the Daily Bugle live broadcast felt completely immersed. Arriving at the battle scene, the reporter saw several fire hydrants bursting and spraying water, and Electro, soaked all over, kneeling on the ground powerlessly, with uncontrolled electric arcs darting over his body. In front of him was Spider-Man, panting. Immediately, the dedicated reporter faced the camera and began to explain, "Oh my god. Viewers, did you see that? Spider-Man has defeated Electro. I can't imagine that Spider-Man, who is still being beaten just now, could subdue Electro in such a short period of time. What exactly happened?" Rolls-Royce backseat. The weak Tony Stark watched the live broadcast through the car's TV, and the reporter's excited tone made him unable to complain. Have these reporters not learned the most basic physics? Water conducts electricity. The driver added. They are liberal arts students. Tony Stark slowly shut his mouth to show his approval. This is almost the simplest common sense of physics. Water conducts electricity. The walking Electro is a mobile high-configuration power station that can store and release electricity. But the problem is, no matter how high configuration it is, a basin of water poured on it will short-circuit and be scrapped. That's the situation now. Spider-Man let Electro encounter water, causing him to lose control and lose his combat power. With the ending already determined, Tony Stark looked at his phone with melancholy. Unable to determine your identity, it seems I was electrocuted for nothing. The phone screen showed a satellite image of Jomo walking towards the scene. For Tony Stark, the good news was that Spider-Man defeated Electro and resolved the crisis. The bad news was that Electro was defeated by Spider-Man, and his plan to force Jomo to take action had failed. Spider-Man's voice came from the TV. The police have prepared a comfortable prison for you. Tony Stark looked over and saw Spider-Man walking towards Electro. With the ending already determined, Tony Stark was originally calm about this, but the next second he saw Electro, who was kneeling on the ground, suddenly raise his head. Immediately, Tony Stark's heart was startled. Those eyes did not belong to a guy who had lost his ability to move. In the next second, before he could see the figure clearly, Electro's body had rapidly ascended into the sky, roaring angrily. Ah! The roar was deafening, causing Tony Stark's ears to ache. At the same time, all the streetlights and billboards on this street exploded and shattered one after another. From the broken lights and billboards and other electrical appliances, streams of electricity like snakes drilled into Electro's body from all directions. The lighting suffered a large area of damage, and the scene was only illuminated by a small amount of light and moonlight, which was much dimmer. The light emitted from Electro's body in the sky easily illuminated the scene like daylight. At a glance, he was like a dazzling bright moon, suspended above everyone's heads. After seeing this, some fear surged in Tony Stark's involuntarily widened pupils. Electro has evolved. As if sensing the question in Tony Stark's heart, Electro responded with action. Yes. With a sharp sonic boom, Electro disappeared on the spot. The next second, Electro walked out of the flashing electric billboard on the roof of the adjacent commercial building. After seeing this, Tony Stark's face turned pale instantly. Has Electro evolved into the form of an energy life form? That is to say, he can teleport arbitrarily in conductors in the form of electric current. Judging this, Tony Stark's boiling emotions were almost about to blurt out. What the hell is this monster? The expensive seat could not dispel the fear in Tony Stark's heart, and his back couldn't stop feeling cold. Subconsciously, the figure of the shapeshifter appeared in Tony Stark's mind at the same time. However, the duration was very short, and the figure of the shapeshifter shrank rapidly, and then shrank to the size of Electro's toe. Tony Stark suddenly realized in horror that this Electro seemed to be countless times more terrifying than the shapeshifter. What covers the world the most is not high-tech products such as mobile phones and computers, but electricity. That is to say, as long as there is electricity in the world, is Electro invincible? Obviously, the shapeshifter cannot control the non-mechanical Electro. Tony Stark's brain was running rapidly, and the figures of Jomo's superpowers flashed through his mind one by one. After quickly checking all of Jomo's transformation abilities in his memory, Tony Stark became even more terrified. Driven by fear, Tony Stark opened his mouth unconsciously and froze in place. He found that even someone as strong as Jomo did not have any ability to fight Electro. This Electro seems to be the most terrifying mutant in the world. Spider-Man showed no sign of backing down and clashed with Electro again. Captured by TV cameras, the fight was broadcast live on New York news. When the explosions started, the young people lost their cool, every gaze locked on Electro, their souls shaken. If they, a street away, were this terrified, one can imagine the civilians hiding on site. What Electro controlled felt less like electricity and more like the very strings tied to their hearts. Even squeezed into a corner with eyes shut, the sharp crackle of current made their hearts lurch and bodies tremble. Those with weaker nerves were already screaming for help through tears. What Ultron had failed to do, Electro now accomplished by accident. Fear leapt through the screen and swept across New York. New Yorkers had begun watching for the drama, even to cheer their hero, sipping drinks and cracking jokes. But as the feed reached this point, living rooms and bars fell into a deathly hush, one after another. Hands froze halfway to potato chip bags, parted lips and pupils quivered uncontrollably. Their hero, Spider-Man, was being pummeled without landing a single blow. This was the first time they'd ever seen Spider-Man lose to a villain. Pummeled was the only word that fit, nothing else described the scene. With near teleport speed, Electro became living lightning, flickering everywhere. Often Spider-Sense had just flared when Gwen turned, only to find Electro gone. Using that speed plus deadly long-range bolts, he turned Gwen into a headless fly, taking hits from every direction. Within minutes the suit was shredded. A blast burned through her abdomen, charring once pale skin and dripping blood. While her healing factor worked, the frantic gasps and darting eyes showed the real danger lay ahead. If she didn't stop Electro soon, the wounds would only pile higher. Watching, Stark forgot Jomo entirely. His only thought was how to end this. Instinct told him to jump in, but the moment he rose, pain stabbed through him. After all, Stark was still human. 2 jolts of electricity were bound to take their toll. Yet if he gave up now, he wouldn't be Stark. Clenching his teeth to stand, he heard rotors whine overhead. Stark blinked. 3 police choppers on the TV feed. New York's finest, veterans of countless super-villain battles, showed their professionalism. Guided by the live broadcast, they swooped in and blanketed the block with fire-suppressant powder. A veil of gray dust settled over the scene in seconds. Electro stared at his palm, panic finally flickering in his eyes. The powder insulated, his control over surrounding current plummeted. Stark nodded approvingly. Now that's professional. Then a hail of gunfire slapped that praise right off his face. They were opening up in downtown New York. The 3 choppers formed a triangle, doors wide, heavy caliber rounds chattering nonstop. Bullet impacts spasmed Electro's body with every hit. But the barrage forced even Spider-Man to dodge ricochets. Hidden civilians wailed or cursed the cops. Magazines empty, the guns fell silent. Electro, riddled with holes, collapsed. Cops exchanged glances, relief breaking into smiles. Above, officers' fist bumped. Anyway, it's over. Thank Gatling, makes everyone equal. Below, civilians poured from cover, hurling curses at the crews above. Viewers exhaled, angry at the cops yet glad it was done, with no better plan in sight. Besides spraying a Gatling dry, they couldn't think of another way. Besides, no one had actually died, so it was still tolerable. Jomo happened to walk up, took in the scene, then glanced at the fruit knife and magical tool in his hand and clicked his tongue in regret. Looks like I really got scammed, this thing's totally useless. The moment Jomo finished speaking, while everyone was still grateful the crisis was finally over. 3 truck-thick bolts of lightning burst from the ground, striking 3 helicopters dead on. Instantly, 3 fireballs bloomed in the sky. Boom, boom, boom. Stark's pupils shrank. He saw Electro, riddled with bullets, actually come back to life. Electro slowly rose into the air, currents flooding toward him like a deluge. The most eye-catching was the one beneath his feet. The sheer amount of electricity nearly swallowed him whole. At that instant, the world fell deathly silent. Netizens stared in horror as if they'd seen a ghost, utterly unable to comprehend. He'd been shot to pieces, how could he revive? On-site citizens were too terrified to move, staring at Electro in a dumbstruck daze. Even Gwen wasn't immune, she'd only ever seen this kind of terrifying regeneration from Jomo. While the world was silent, Stark heard Friday's voice. Sir, Electro is absorbing New York's power grid, roughly 30% so far. Stark's brows shot up in shock. 30% of the whole city's electricity is inside him. Watching the massive pillar of current rising beneath Electro, Stark guessed a terrifying truth. By absorbing electricity, Electro could not only boost his strength but also heal his wounds. He'd collapsed right onto a high-voltage underground line, no wonder he hadn't died. With a full picture of Electro's power, Stark's heart hammered faster, his face draining of color. Can't die and grows infinitely stronger, instinct screamed this was an Electro on par with the Ultron crisis. Snapping back, Stark barked in panic, Friday, contact the rest of the Avengers, now. Get them here immediately. Understood. Sweating and still gasping, Stark wiped his brow. The only thing calm was his mind. Remembering something, he hastily added. Tell the city government, cut the power first. Done, sir. With that reply, Stark's nerves eased a fraction. This crisis has reached the point where only the full Avengers can stop it. Once the power's cut, Electro won't get any stronger. Moments later Stark received word. The city had gone dark. He exhaled in relief, pinching the bridge of his nose. At least it can't get worse. Now we just wait for them. Though the grid was dead, Electro had become a walking power plant. His mere presence kept the surrounding lights blazing. A blessing in disguise, the residual lights burned brighter than before, visibility even better. Yet because of Electro, arcs of electricity sporadically crackled off him, filling the air with the stench of scorched ozone wherever they snapped. Thinking of Jomo, Stark's eyes lit up. Could he hold Electro off? Electro can't absorb any more power, he won't get stronger. At this level, Jomo should manage, right? Full of hope, Stark looked toward his phone. Unluckily, the exact moment Stark glanced over, Jomo was accidentally struck by an arc. Hidden ready to leave, Jomo spotted Gwen still struggling to hold on. Fine. After a silent sigh, Jomo switched personas and cursed loudly. I knew these trinkets were useless, no luck boost at all. With that, he stormed into a nearby building. Stark smiled knowingly. Superheroes do need privacy to suit up. Sure enough, 2 seconds after Jomo vanished, a new figure appeared on the rooftop. Seeing the familiar X-like emblem on the figure, Stark grinned wider. Ha! Still claiming you're not you-know-who. BZZT. But the next second, when Stark saw electricity crackling over the electromagnetic strongman as well, his heart clenched so hard he nearly stopped breathing. No way, buddy. I just blacked out New York, and you whip out electric powers. Eyes wide to be sure he wasn't seeing things, Stark felt like vomiting blood. Are you trying to give Electro an even bigger charge? With the power cut, the reporter quickly pulled out a phone, switched to mobile data, and resumed the livestream. Viewers shifted from TV to phones and tablets. Electro's blinding flashes lit the screens, stinging their eyes. On-screen, Electro wasn't moving fast, he simply fired currents, forcing Spider-Man to scramble in disgrace. Another dozen patrol cars rolled into frame, fully geared police leapt out, used the vehicles as cover, and opened fire. To the present Electro, bullets felt no worse than mosquito bites. A fresh bolt drove Spider-Man back. Seizing the opening, Electro snarled at the cops and flicked his wrist. 10-odd high-voltage arcs burst from his palm. Annoying bugs. The bolts struck true. The officers had no time to scream before they were charred into statues and toppled, none surviving. The scene detonated the viewers. Emotions, terror flooded every limb. The hallmark of a livestream appeared. Real-time comments scrolled like lightning. Some viewers, on the verge of tears yet alone, could only dump their panic into the chat. Holy crap. He just slaughtered that many cops in the street. Is this the strongest supervillain Spider-Man's ever faced? Guys, can anyone explain why the more juice he absorbs, the stronger he gets? As long as the super-powered want, they can trample the rules we live by, and the one who protects those rules is about to die. Of course, not every chatter was American. Besides the tear-streaked messages you could picture behind the screens, plenty of cold ridicule appeared. Haha. Think of all the countries you've invaded, now you Yanks finally feel the helplessness of facing a stronger invader. Among the high rises, a current exploded the spot where Spider-Man had stood, flinging him off the building. Like a snapped kite he plummeted, limbs flailing. After discharging so much electricity, Electro's own power began to glitch. Panicked, he stared at his hands, his ability flickered, slipping out of control. He couldn't figure out what was happening. Was it because he'd only recently unlocked the power and lacked practice? That was the question racing through his mind. Without doubt, this was his weakest moment, the perfect chance to strike. Gwen realized it too, yet she did nothing, still falling helplessly. An eerie calm overtook her. After repeated trauma, the blood-covered girl was too weak even to lift a finger. Worse, her web cartridges were empty. Even with strength, she had no options left. Everything around rushed past in reverse. A single thought surfaced. I think I'm going to die. She had never imagined that accompanying Jomo on a simple shopping trip would end in accidental death. Yet, for some reason, falling to her death from the sky almost felt like her destined end. Still, dying here felt wrong. A quiet cathedral would have suited her better. From the corner of her eye she spotted movement below. Electromagnetic strongman, knees bent like springs. Bang! His legs snapped straight, pulverizing the concrete and launching him skyward. Before Gwen could wonder, the soaring strongman caught her in a hug, halting her fall. Still dazed, she noticed the familiar clumsy watch logo on his chest and smiled in delight. It's you. Watching it all, Stark's jaw dropped. No words came. He'd seen the whole leap. Electromagnetic strongman had vaulted more than a dozen stories. Such monstrous physique, probably only four-armed overlord could match it, right? Instead of continuing the descent, the strongman hung in midair while holding Gwen. Noting the two tower-shaped coils on his back crackling with current, Stark guessed magnetic levitation was keeping them aloft. That surprised him again. His new ability could control magnetic fields too. Stark exhaled and relaxed. On reflection, he figured Jomo couldn't be that foolish. His power is also electricity. He can simply absorb Electro's juice. That's the best move. His gaze returned to Electro, and Stark smirked in anticipation. Right now Electro's at his weakest. But when he looked back at electromagnetic strongman, Stark's grin froze. There, hovering in the air, the strongman freed one hand and leveled his palm at the not-so-distant Electro. On the electromagnetic strongman's back, two tower-like rings crackled with ever-intensifying arcs of electricity. As the current surged, the power swirling in his outstretched palm surged as well. Stark's heart skipped a beat, eyes bulging in terror. He snapped Ramrod straight again. At that instant he wanted to curse more than he ever had in his life. No, 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 no. You're actually going to charge him up. Buddy, whose side are you on? Gwen was stunned. Launching an electric attack on Electro was now unquestionably the dumbest move possible. She had no idea what Jomo intended, but trusting him on instinct, she didn't interfere. Netizens froze, slack-jawed. They couldn't fathom it. He'd just saved Spider-Man, so he should be one of the good guys. So why was he powering up Electro? Spotting the scene in his panic, Electro looked over as if he'd found a lifeline, delighted. As long as I get topped off, I'll be unstoppable again. He rejoiced silently. He simply spread his arms wide, offering no resistance. Gradually, as the charge built, the lightning dancing between the two pylons on the electromagnetic strongman's back blazed brighter than Electro's own glow. It reached a point where just watching made Stark and the online crowd afraid. They felt they were staring at a walking bomb that could detonate any second. Stark's whole body shook. Just how much juice are you pumping into him? Electro, on the other hand, grew ever more ecstatic. Bring it on, make me stronger. Without a word, after 3 seconds of buildup, the electromagnetic strongman unleashed the lightning in his palm. The blazing bolt lit the night like an enraged dragon, ripping the air with a howling roar. And, just as everyone expected, the bolt struck the unresisting Electro dead on, the colossal current swallowing his slight frame whole. Stark's heart stopped. This had to be the worst moment of his life. Right then the netizens decided, the electromagnetic strongman was definitely a traitor. Before the world could erupt and the curses could fly, the lightning vanished, taking Electro with it. The glow Electro had emitted disappeared, only the electromagnetic strongman still shone. Red-faced netizens opened their mouths to scream, then froze mid-breath. Stark blinked rapidly, utterly lost. Everyone was struck by the same question. Electro, where'd he go? Friday's voice sounded inside the car. As the tech industry tightened, Stark Industries naturally had backup power. Sir, because the current was completely unabsorbable, the heat and impact carbonized Electro instantly. The words hit Stark like a jolt. Carbonized. Stark hadn't meant it as a question, but Friday treated it as one. Yes, similar to a person at ground zero of an atomic blast. That yanked Stark's attention to Friday. Voice cracking in shock, pupils quaking, he yelled, "Atomic blast." Realizing her gaffe, Friday clarified, "It's only an analogy, sir." Stark didn't hear her, lips trembling, he was speechless. The situation was nothing like he'd imagined. Jomo had indeed hit Electro with electricity. But the instant it connected, the electromagnetic strongman's output exceeded Electro's absorption limit, overloading him. In the next instant, the follow-up current incinerated Electro, leaving not even a corpse, only a few charred crumbs. Replaying it in his mind, Stark couldn't help gaping, his soul nearly leaving his body from shock. Electro had easily swallowed 30% of New York's grid. If they hadn't cut the feed, he'd have taken more. Yet the moment he touched the electromagnetic strongman's power, he overloaded completely, couldn't absorb a single amp. Stark broke out in goosebumps. Instantly obliterated. He couldn't fathom it, both of them used electricity. How could the gap between Jomo's new ability and Electro's be this absurd? That's ridiculous. Stark retracted his earlier words. Jomo was unquestionably the strongest mutant. His body jolted as if shocked, and he frantically looked at his phone. Evolve one ability from a person and it instantly dwarfs the original. He had to figure out where Jomo's power had come from. The viewers stared dumbfounded for a long time before they could react. By the time they came to their senses, the electromagnetic strongman had already left with Spider-Man. After a brief silence, the chat window exploded. Electro is stronger than Spider-Man, yet this electric man just one-shot Electro. So, guys, Electro Man is the most powerful superhuman we know. Looks like he's on our side, thank God, because I can't imagine what we'd face otherwise. Seems New York has a new neighbor. And that's great news for us. In an office, behind a desk. Catching that comment out of the corner of his eye, Kingpin's face darkened, veins bulging on his forehead from tension he didn't even notice. Reaching out, he snapped the laptop shut, his deep, powerful voice echoed through the office. Inform all crews, suspend every operation immediately. If even the underground emperor was this wary, the other crime syndicates and supervillains were too terrified to breathe. Even if Spider-Man suddenly appeared in front of them right now, they wouldn't be this scared. After all, no matter how hostile things got, Spider-Man followed rules. Catch the crook and hand him to the police. Worst case, you just go to jail. This new superhuman was completely different. He struck to kill. Every move just now showed zero intent of letting his target survive. Mysterious and savage, how could they not be terrified? Oscorp Industries. The screen split in two, replaying the battles of both the shapeshifter and the electromagnetic strongman. Green Goblin's gaze darted left and right, eyes locked on the two alien heroes, his brows knitted tight. It looks like he can evolve powers similar to whoever he's fighting. That possibility baffled Green Goblin to the core, he simply couldn't understand it. Still, thinking of his own abilities offered some comfort. I'm basically just a strength-augmented human with no other special powers. In his eyes I must be nothing more than a flying bug. Even if we do meet, he won't be able to copy anything from me, he mocked himself with a laugh. Maybe he'll just let me go because of that. Even as he said it, Green Gobrelf hurriedly stashed his pumpkin bombs away, deciding to keep a low profile and avoid Spider-Man for the time being. With Spider-Man gaining such a powerful ally, one of his arch-enemies couldn't help but feel afraid. It wasn't just the super criminals who took notice, heroes hiding in the shadows did too. In stark contrast, those vigilantes were pumped, overjoyed. Some of them grinned from ear to ear at the thought of having such a powerhouse on their side. With this mystery man around, who in New York would dare wreak havoc again? His mere presence was enough to deter every criminal in the city. Friday just cracked the police's comms. An informant says every major gang in underground New York has ordered a halt to all business. It's all because of you, they're terrified of you. In the back of the Rolls-Royce, Stark's face flushed with excitement. Of course, I mean the real you. Jomo feigned surprise. So you think I'm the shapeshifter who casually wiped out Ultron's main force, and now the electric man who saved New York in one move. Come on, Mr. Stark, Jomo sighed, settling back. I'm just an ordinary guy. Just then the driver in the front passed back 2 glasses of red wine. Stark took one with his only mobile arm, while Jomo declined. Looks like you're not planning to admit your identity, Stark said after a sip. But I understand. Jomo blinked, looking utterly bewildered. As the saying goes, if you don't admit it, the other side only wants you to confess. But once you do admit it, their demands multiply. As long as Stark couldn't produce ironclad proof, Jomo wouldn't admit a thing. If he did, people wouldn't be talking about Electric Man, they'd be talking about Jomo, and that would be troublesome. Seeing the driver hesitantly offer 2 cigars, Stark almost refused but finally took one, lit it, and clamped it between his teeth. Leaning back, one arm draped over the seat, Stark looked every inch the tycoon. All right then, Mr. Key, let me offer you a job. Jomo brightened at first, then wrinkled his nose in displeasure. So you still think I'm that mysterious mutant? A flawless performance. Exhaling smoke, Stark grinned in approval. Right now he'd bet his life the young man in front of him was that mysterious mutant. Since the other party wouldn't admit it, he'd just find another way to build a relationship. Persistence would pull him into the Avengers sooner or later. Just as Stark was about to rattle off the excellent terms, Jomo cut in first. Mr. Stark, do I look like a mutant to you? He threw a punch toward Stark's shoulder. Jomo's body was that of an ordinary person and he hadn't used much force, but because Stark didn't have the cigar gripped firmly, it dropped, scattering a few sparks on the carpet. Jomo went to pick up the cigar. Feel that? I'm just an ordinary guy, no connection to mutants whatsoever. After saying this, worried it would go out, Jomo considerately puffed on the ember, made it burn brighter, then slipped the cigar back into Stark's mouth. Stark, who'd been watching Jomo's performance with an amused smile, suddenly yelped, "Ah!" Jomo slapped his forehead. Oops, wrong end in. Sorry. Using both hands, Jomo yanked the cigar out, turned it the right way, and parked it again between Stark's teeth. He exhaled in relief. Phew, right this time. Stark almost bit the cigar in half. You're putting on a show, why torture me while you're at it? Face dark, Stark kept his tone friendly. If you need a place to stay, I can arrange one. Jomo gave a slight shake of his head. Thanks for the offer, Mr. Stark, but I've already got a roof. With some cash in his pocket and a shapeshifter to hack government systems for fake IDs, Jomo had decided to move out of the underground room. Partly for comfort, partly because, after the huge news, he needed to keep a safe distance from Spider-Man. Spider-Man, of course, not the pretty girl Gwen. A blister had popped up on his lip, talking hurt. Stark pulled the cigar out and stared at it resentfully. The place I'm offering is very fancy. I know money's tight for you, you could use some. Hearing that, Jomo was displeased. Mocking me for being broke. Without a word he produced a VIP bank card. I've got cash. Stark glanced at the card and asked delicately, what's the PIN? Jomo snorted, he could recite that in his sleep. The password is. Professor Lizard's silhouette surfaced in his mind. Jomo's brows knitted tighter. 2 seconds later, forehead creased, he scratched his head. Weird, what did he say while I was beating him up? Stark's heart skipped. Beating. Taking a deep breath, Stark steadied himself. If you move in, there's a monthly stipend of 200 grand. Jomo inwardly gasped. Rich folks sure splash out. Thinking of the less than professional servant he'd hastily hired, Stark's eyes dimmed. Of course, attentive staff will handle your daily needs. Mentioning the other mutant, Stark sounded less confident and glanced cautiously. You'd have to share the place with Wanda, she's living there for now. Under Stark's anxious gaze, Jomo blinked. A few minutes later, Gwen returned. The battered Nissan started up. Gwen drove while sneaking glances at Jomo. Did Stark figure out who you really are? That worry nod at her. No. Arms folded, Jomo denied it, he was confident on that point. Gwen grew more puzzled. Then why did he come? He wants to hire me, room and board included, decent pay, salary for doing nothing. Jomo summed it up in his own way. Room and board. Ignoring the last bit, Gwen latched onto that phrase. Worry replaced curiosity. She flicked a casual glance at Jomo, then back to the road. So, are you moving out? Nope. Jomo was firm. Back home we say, gold den, silver den, still not as sweet as your own dog den. On one side, his shabby basement. On the other, a tycoon's lavish setup. Jomo chose the former, must be a reason, right? So, what was the reason? Gwen's grin threatened to split her face, she pressed her lips to hide it. Done brooding, Jomo looked up. Oh, Gwen, drop me up ahead. Gwen glanced over, puzzled. Where are you going? Even as she asked, she obediently hit the brake. Doors open, Jomo grabbed his things. Just strolling. Strolling. Gwen was even more bewildered. At night, wandering the street. After 2 steps he turned back. Right, remember you promised me your used bedding. I'll text you an address, mail it, okay. Realization dawned, chest heaving, Gwen glared, nostrils flaring. Feeling guilty, Jomo spun away, scratching his head. Hey, just a stroll. The Rolls-Royce disappeared into the distance. Jomo walked into a mansion-sized villa. Inside, forewarned, Wanda stood on the 2nd floor, eyeing Jomo with curiosity. A few steps in, the phantom shadow sigil flared in his mind. Jomo frowned and swept his gaze around. He'd spotted Wanda, sure, but this wasn't their first meeting. The sigil lighting now meant someone else had triggered it. Besides Wanda, another mutant was here. Thanks for watching.